And we are live. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming into this live this beautiful Saturday morning. It's actually kind of overcast here in California, but hope the weather is good anywhere that you guys are listening from. Just to start, let's make sure we can hear me. So if anyone can drop it down in the comments and let me know if you can hear me okay, that would be awesome. See my buddy John R is first here in the chat. Welcome, John. Appreciate you being here and being a channel member, and definitely check out uh, all the videos that John has on his channel as well, because he's one of those incoming YouTubers too. So definitely really good to see you here, John. Thanks so much. All right, everyone's here. John says 5 by 5, excellent. MR says hear me, hear you, very good. Excellent. You sound great and then wonderful. RemGB's in the house. We got both of your comments, by the way, RemGB. So we're going to definitely get to those in a little bit. Thanks, Kevin, for letting me know that you can hear me. And then John McKinstry is here as well. Thanks so much for that. Keith also commented, saying, did you see what Citi did to the affiliate bloggers who wrote about the Strata too early? Even though the information was on Citi's site, they kicked them out of their affiliate program. I did not hear about that, actually. That is a little unfortunate. But I think that would be Citi's fault if they posted the. I kind of saw this actually. I saw it on Reddit first, where they posted the Citi Strata, Strata Premier card too early, and then I went to the URL that they posted, and the URL was taken down. This was a little bit, well before it was supposed to be released, and so I didn't hear about that. But unfortunately, that happened, and unfortunately, I didn't really realize that Citi had an affiliate program that was too public, but I know that some affiliate networks do carry their cards. So that is very unfortunate. So Emmer's here and he's saying, let's hop to it, Frog. I'm jonesing for this juicy Strata Premier info. Yeah, we'll get that towards the end of the live stream, MR. So just definitely wait for that. Matt Clausen's the house. Citi messed up, but apparently are not to be critiqued. Yeah, Citi, I always say Citi's always at it again, and we have a nice whole section here about the Citi Strata Premier, and then what I think about the Strata Elite, maybe. So we'll kind of go into that too. So that'll be very exciting. Sid M's in the house. Hey, Stan, I'm your biggest fan. Well, thank you, Sid. I appreciate that. I'm your biggest fan as well. Thank you for coming to the live stream and just being able to spend your Saturday morning with me as well. All right. John McKinstry says he can hear me. It's a somewhat warm, overcast day here in Philadelphia. Yeah. So it looks like it's the overcast time to be here in the United States. And then Keith S is making a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek, phrase here for Citibank. My boy, Jesus Christ is here. Mr. Doctor of Frog. I appreciate it. So Mr. Doctor is funny. I think Dr. Frog or Mr. Doctor. I think that's really either one is fine with me. I know that I had a lot of nicknames that came up with my live stream with Joe earlier this week. That was pretty funny. So you can ask them about that if you have any questions about that. All right. Juan Garcia's in the house. Hey, Stan. Hey, Juan. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a channel member. And we'll hopefully have a really good live stream for all of us here today. And John R says, Citi being weird as usual. Yeah, they're always going to do their own thing. Citi will be Citi, Citi at it again, those sorts of things. Okay. DC Gemini says, I have 2 Aspires, 1 Brilliant Delta Reserve, and the business Hilton card. I plan on canceling the business card and either adding the business Marriott or a 3rd Aspire. What do you recommend? So I actually, in this situation, would say get a 3rd Aspire because you already have 2. And if you have one other one, the Aspire is actually a much better card than the business Marriott. The business Marriott has 2 things going for it. The first thing is going to be its 7% room rate discount. So that's super nice. And so if you want to stay at a lot of economy properties, and by the way, these 7% discount rates, they're for the non-prepaid version hotel. So if you purchase this rate and then you can cancel the hotel 2 days beforehand and not have a cancellation fee. The thing is, the prepaid version of that is going to be pretty similar to the pricing of the 7% room rate discount on that Marriott business card. And so if that's something that you think you're going to be doing with Marriott's, then that would be one thing. The second thing is you have the 15 Elite night credit. So if you're going to gun for Titanium Elite, then I think using this card would be a better choice. You already have the brilliant card, so you get that 25 late night credit. We're gonna go over this later in the live stream too in much more detail. But 25 late night credits plus 15 is 40, and then it leaves you about 35 nights left. There are some tricks to get less nights than that to get to 75 for Titanium Elite. But if you're like kind of really gonna go for just the most amount of value, I would just say go for the third Aspire. Okay. John R says sunny and bright here in Kansas City. So I guess we got 2 cloudy and overcast, 1 sunny. So that's pretty cool to hear. I hope you enjoy your day. I believe it's probably noon or 1 o'clock over there. And so almost either lunchtime or a little after lunchtime. So hopefully you have some nice warm weather over there. Cannibalistic asks, what card always flies under the radar in your opinion? And I think I would say one of those lesser known cards are certainly there. Doc actually put a comment on one of my videos just I think it was yesterday. He told me about the PayPal business card. So the PayPal MasterCard already is a great card that kind of flies under the radar. No annual fee, 3% on PayPal and 2% on everything else. And it's like, no annual fee, which is again really great. But the problem with that card is it has foreign transaction fees. Well, Doc told me that actually another card that's better is actually the PayPal Business MasterCard, which is the same as the PayPal personal version, but it has no foreign transaction fees. So I think that's a really cool thing to think about. And also, it may not even report to Chase 524. I don't know about that, but just based on kind of the other business cards, I think that would be the case too. So definitely something to look into. I think 2 other cards that fly on the radar that are, I guess 3, are the AAA cards, the AAA Daily Advantage for the 5% cash back on groceries up to $10,000 per year. And then the 5%, the AAA Travel Advantage card, which gives you the 5% gas and EV charging for up to $10,000 per year. Again, no annual fee, no transaction fees, no foreign transaction fees. And so those are really good cards to consider. And of course, everyone's favorite, Redstone Federal Credit Union card, which is the, no annual fee, 5% card. I think it's restaurants and gas, if I remember correctly, some 3% categories and a 1.5% cashback on everything else. There are some limits on those elevated categories, but again, very good card for no annual fee and no foreign transaction fees. So those are the ones I think that would really fly under the radar for that. Kevin Wynn asks, what do you think is the best Amex credit card for normal spending? So normal spending is going to vary from person to person. So the cop out answer is going to be it depends. But I think that if you were looking for like a cash back situation, I would say either the Blue Cash Preferred or Blue Cash Everyday. You can pick your poison. I know it's not Amex specific in terms of its cashback credit card. I think that those cards have a low enough annual fee, specifically the Blue Cash Preferred, that it's okay. And then the Blue Cash Everyday has no annual fee, so that's perfect. So I would say that those are the cards that would capture the majority of your everyday spending, including groceries, gas, transit, things like that. I kind of want to say the gold card. If you asked me this question 2 years ago, the gold card would be my answer to that. But honestly, there's going to be some things happening with the gold card soon. And none of it's going to be positive in my opinion. So I would just say that would not be the best for everyday spending. I think if you wanted the gold card, if you're dropping like, 15, 20, 25 grand on groceries and or restaurants, then I think it would be definitely worth it. But if you're not doing that, you're just dropping like $500 a month on food, then I would just do something much cheaper and much more affordable. MR reports that I'm also happy my Premier was auto-converted to the Strata for some reason. I got the impression that they would be different products officially. I think we all thought they'd be different products, and I'm going to go into that later on in the video. But yeah, I think everyone wanted to see if they could do a Premier and then, double shot the welcome offer, and Citi just preempted that and said, no, you're not doing that. We're Citi. So we're going to pull this off on you. And that's how they rolled. And so that's how it is. And so we just have to accept it and kind of be okay with it. But I'm glad that you were happy with that. And I guess it makes it easier for you in terms of a logistical standpoint. See, Keith also follows up here with saying, Citi screwed up again and posted info on their site about the Prestige card. Then the bloggers wrote about that too, and Citi demand that they take off info down too. Listen, I don't know what is going on in Citi, and I know, that there are some that know more about Citi than others. But the rollouts for Citi need to be better. I think Matt Clausen kind of touched on this in his video when he talked about it earlier on when it first came out. But like the rollouts are just they're not really that good. And it's not that hard because you've taken so long to roll out a card. Like it's not that hard to just like update your website at the right time or like, not make it public. I mean, this is very basic stuff. And so for a major bank to not know how to like use the internet is kind of hilarious, but that is Citi. And that's how they roll. So we're gonna have to just, deal with that and then live with that. John saying thanks for the shout. No problem, John. I appreciate you being here and being a proud supporter of our channel as well as everyone else's channel too, because you were definitely a really big supporter, and I really appreciate it. I know that all of us out here in the credit card community all appreciate it as well. Um, let's see. All right. Keith has said that frequent miler said that it was addressed on our podcast. Really good to know. I should watch their podcast more often. I hear really good things about that. RemGB says, cloudy and raw with drizzle here in Boston. Oh, I didn't know you were from Boston. I love Boston. I was there for 15 years while I was doing my medical training and college, that sort of thing. And definitely a great education town and definitely a very nice, I would say, European type town. If there was a town in the US that was the most European like, I would say it'd be Boston. And so I'm sorry that you're cloudy and drizzle, but we're the same here in Southern California. Cloudy, just no drizzle, but just cloudy. But appreciate you. And thanks again for your 2 questions we'll get to in a moment. Warren says, hi, thanks for your videos. Why do you prefer Marriott if Aspire has more benefits? I would like to know your opinion and position, please. Yeah. So I addressed this a lot in Joe's live stream earlier this week. But basically for me, I would like to say that rewards are a very big part of what I do with these hotel chains. But to be quite honest, it's really about convenience. So my big thing about just this whole credit card game and how I look at things is I like simplicity and I like convenience. And that's become more and more so as I've gone through this in more and more years. Because when you have a lot of complexity in your setup, your life gets more complicated. And, as you get older, life kind of becomes more complicated as well. And so to be able to simplify things is really helpful. And so that's the first thing. Marriott makes it simple because they have very convenient properties. And so wherever I want to stay, when I travel, Marriott tends to have the hotels in the locations that I want to stay in. Now, I don't know if that's because it's just luck or just places I want to stay, or I typically tend to stay at places that are more urban, but of course they have plenty of, footprints in rural areas too. I just find that Marriott's, they are always there where I want them to be. And not only are they there, but there's like 3 or 4 choices, right? And so there's so many options. I can choose if I want to do luxury versus convenience versus, something that's cheaper. And so there's a lot of optionality in that. And that's what I really love about the Marriott system. The rewards program is not really that good. I've never really had any great redemptions. They don't really give me good benefits. I would say, like I said in the previous live stream with Joe, the Hilton system has gotten me much more value than the Marriott system ever has. And that's basically because it's Hilton Gold, you get that $25 daily food and beverage credit. And then you get 2 of them if you have a second person staying with you on your hotel. And so that has gotten me the most amount of benefit. But that the convenience will always trump that for me. I've also noticed that because I'm platinum elite and higher, I'm actually titanium elite now. A lot of the Marriotts, even though they don't offer like the daily food and beverage credit, some of the higher end properties do have like a restaurant where they say, oh, by the way, as a platinum or titanium elite member, you get to go in there and have, a free breakfast or a $25 credit to your breakfast. So it's very similar, but it's not as constant. And it's not as reliable as every Hilton property I've been to. So it's like more of a hit and miss with Marriott. And so that's why I prefer Marriott. And that was a little bit of a long-winded question, answer to your question, but hopefully that was good. Ooh, excuse me. DC Gemini says, thanks. I've been utilizing both brands for the past 2 years. I'm starting to like Marriott more, speaking of, but I can't deny the Aspire card and what it offers is top tier. This is what I think about Hilton. And again, this is going to go into what we talk about later on. If you could use the $200 resort credit, I think it's $200 semi-annual or what have you, you could do. I think Aspire is good because the problem with that credit is it's only at Hilton resorts. If you stay at places with Hilton resorts, then that is perfect, and that actually works pretty well. So you can kind of cut down on that $550 annual fee, while also getting that free night certificate, which we all know they're just phenomenal certificates. Sly06002 asks, what do you think of the new US Bank Cash Plus design? Minor thing, I know, but I hate it. Yeah, it looks a lot like that US Bank Shopper Cash Rewards card, but a little bit more like the colors are more kind of different. It's the US colors, which is, America first, America number one. I like that. But I agree. I think it's a little bit weird. I actually do like the simpler design of the previous version where it was this navy blue with some lines on it. It's more pleasing to me in when I like look at it at the beginning. When I look at the Shopper Cash Rewards or the new US Bank Cash Plus design, like my head hurts and like I don't know. One of the funny things is as I gotten older, I get vertigo more easily, and I'm not like that bad with it. But for example, when I go to like carnivals, you have those like rides that kind of go back and forth, they swing back and forth. Like I can't do that. Or if they have those things where they kind of spin around in circles, like I can't do that either. Funny story also, when I was in college, I used to play a lot of Halo. I'm sure you guys remember Halo on the original Xbox, and then Halo 2 as well. But then I think around the time later than that, this game called Gears of War came out, and that was like the new rage, and everyone like loved that game. I played the game for like 10 seconds, and I couldn't because at that point I started to get a lot of vertigo, and ever since that point, I've noticed that I've could not able to have play any of those games that are more realistic. So all the Call of Duties, the Gears of War 2, like anything that's super realistic, like I just can't because my brain just I get such a huge splitting headache. And I say that all to wrap it around that the Cash Plus design it gives me a little bit of a headache when I stare at it for too long. And so that's just me. Some people like it. It's just kind of not my thing. What prevent me from getting the card? The answer is no, of course not, because it's a great card. Like I want to get that card at some point too, but I just probably wouldn't look at it for too long. MR says City Rewards Plus is my ace in the hole for 20K points a month. That's great, and also has the benefit I think that gives you that like 10% boost on your rewards, which is pretty sweet. So it sounds like you're really redeeming a lot of points. So that's super awesome. Way to use that card in the right way. My buddy traveling with LV is in the house. How's it going, Stan? Good, man. Good to talk to you. Good to see you again. Hope your travels are treating you well. And again, definitely thanks for coming to the live stream today. Guangzhou Yang says, I currently have the Ritz Carlton card, and my goal is to get 285K free night awards. Should I get a second Ritz Carlton, or should I downgrade my current Ritz, apply for a Brilliant, and then upgrade back to the Ritz? I think that if I were you, I would do the second option, which is downgrade the current Ritz, apply for the Brilliant, and then upgrade back. The reason why I say that is because even though the Brilliant has a 650 annual fee versus the 450 annual fee on the Ritz Carlton card, the Brilliant does come with the Platinum tier. And I think for Bonvoy, the Bonvoy program, Platinum is really where the benefits start to get helpful. I think Gold is kind of useless, and so is Silver. You get like this free internet thing, but like that's that kind of it. And so I think having Platinum or higher is really where you start to get at least somewhat closer to Hilton Gold status if you were to look at the Hilton side of things. So that's why I would do the Brilliant. I think having both is fine too. Again, once you have the Brilliant, you secure the welcome offer, you have to worry about it ever again. You can get as many Ritz Carlton cards or whatever you want to get. And so that's what I would do. John McKinstry says that he likes the new US Bank Cash Plus design. He likes it better than the blue card because it seems there are a lot more blue cards out there. Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think that it makes it unique. That's for sure. But it still gives me vertigo to look at. All right. Kevin says, what do you think the US Bank Shopper Cash Rewards and Cash Plus combined? I think that would be a great card. I would not want to see an annual fee on the Cash Plus card, though. That's kind of what makes it great. You get 5% cashback categories that are pretty unique, like home utilities and home improvement. Although I think CCR has home improvement, but they have very unique cashback categories for no annual fee, and I think that's its draw. If you start adding things like the $95 annual fee on the US Bank Shopper Cash Rewards, then it becomes not as good. Even if they did like a 6% situation, I don't know if I would even do that either because there's so many 5% cashback cards on the market now that that you can use that I think that it would just make that card less appealing and less desirable. Okay. Tango asks, any thoughts on using buying groups for MS to get welcome bonus? Have you tried yourself? Any recommendations of buying groups? I don't know what you're referring to, but I personally don't do MS or advocate for MS. It's kind of a personal preference, but that's something I just don't do and don't ever plan on doing. Vijan Balasubramanian says, what is your go-to card for big spends like taxes or 10K purchases, something like that? And that's a great question. So for big purchases, I have a video on this from like maybe a year and a half ago. But I have a collection of like 5. It's the Business Platinum, the Business Gold, the Cap One Venture X Business, the Hilton. That would be the Hilton Surpass. I think there's another one that I'm forgetting, but I would say the Built Mastercard too. We'll kind of go over that in a little bit too. The Built Mastercard is kind of interesting because you can do it on rent day, and then you can also use that to get to higher levels of status. And so that's kind of why I would say that, not necessarily for the point situation. And then it's kind of more of a looking at your built status and kind of what those status levels provide. I would say that those are the ones I would do because, again, if you use the MR point earning cards, you get a lot of a big welcome offer. The Surpass obviously gives you the Hilton points as well as the 15K free night certificate. I don't believe there's any spending targets that I would otherwise target other than those cards I mentioned, but that would be what I would use for those purchases. Okay. He says he's a bunch of rocket surgeons. Yeah, that's for damn sure. Albert Tam says, if no bonus for 48 months for Premier, then can get a second strata and bonus. Okay, so they're kind of playing the City Sapphire Preferred and Reserve game here with the 48 months. Thank you, Albert, for letting me know that. I did not know. City has boomers running their tech. I can see that, QC man. You should go over there and QC them yourself because I think you'd have a lot of great things to say to them and maybe make it a lot better for a lot of us using City. Filmo's in the house. Filmo78 says, good morning, Stan, and everyone. Thank you, sir. I understand you're in the morning, so I guess you must be in Pacific or Mountain time. So I appreciate you coming here. Thanks for showing up. MR says, City is the Rob Gronkowski of crypto companies. Yeah, I like Rob Gronkowski. He was a great tight end, but I think he did run this course, and I think he just enjoy himself, enjoy his life. Sean D's in the house. Good morning, Stan, everyone. And Kevin Wynn says, sunny in San Jose, California. Okay, so we have a little bit of difference in weather. So I'm looking at the window right now. It looks like the sun's coming out. So maybe it was just a little morning fog situation, but it looks like we're getting some sun here, which is nice. So I'll be able to enjoy that after the live stream is over. All right. I'm happy to the City Premier Strata. It came with a new AOL CD and a paper phone book. It's funny. I used to get so many AOL CDs, and I was a big fan of AOL and the AOL Instant Messenger. I was using that for such a long time when I was in high school and elementary school, for that matter. And it's a fun time, a different time, and just to think back those memories is just really, really funny. And it's kind of sad that AOL went away, but if they didn't if they didn't innovate, that's what happens to a lot of companies. They just kind of fall to the wayside. Okay. Albert Tom says technically unlimited FNA with Marriott with enough time. I can see that. That's definitely true. QC man says, I know US bar is your favorite card, but what's the biggest thing about using it that either annoys you or you think they can realistically improve on? I think that if I could use the physical card for any reason, that would be good. I know it has the 3x on travel. I don't think I have any annoyances with it. It's a really great card. Like it's so helpful to me to spend on because it basically covers all my mobile wallet categories. And so if they had maybe like a better like catch-all category, that would make it like basically the one card to rule it all. But I don't really have any other complaints other than that. Once you get it set up, it's pretty seamless. And the real-time rewards works very well. And I think that is why I use it so much. All right. Matt Clausen says party Gronk, not on-field Gronk. Yeah, party Gronk. Gronk is a big partier. I've seen that before too. MR says, good to Matt Clausen. Sean says, hey Stan, what are your thoughts on the Choice Hotel program? Looks like a lot of value to be had. Yes, I hear a lot of great things about Choice. I know that Luke and Dugraz talk about them in their channels. I don't have a lot of experience with Choice, nor do I have any City cards, and so I don't have that 2-to-1 Choice transfer option. And so I don't really get into their program, but I hear it's really valuable. So if it's something that you think you'd stay at, then I would say, yeah, just check it out. Ivan's here. What's good, y'all? Good to see you, Ivan. Thanks for showing up here for the live stream today. Appreciate you being here. And Tango says, how to keep Amex points and ability to transfer them to transfer partners with no annual fee or no credits. I believe that no matter what MR point card you have, you can still transfer them to partners. There's no card that's like you have to unlock it. So, for example, if you have any no annual fee MR point owning card, which I think there are two, which is the Blue Business Plus as well as the Everyday card, I still think you can transfer them out to transfer partners even with those cards. And someone in the chat, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what's going on with that. So those are the two cards that you could use for that purpose. Okay. J. Rome asks, is the discontinued Wells Fargo Visa Signature now the king of no annual fee cards, and why? I don't think so. I mean, I think they have a lot of great Visa Signature cards already. They have the Active Cash, that's 2%, which is really good. And so I'm not sure which one you're really referring to. There was a Propel card that was a Visa card that was now the autograph card, and that's also Visa as well. I guess the autograph, sorry, the previous card was American Express, but the autograph is a Visa now. But I think that's there's still a lot of good Visa cards from Wells Fargo that I would say are still there. QC Man says, "Poor Stan can only play Super Mario Brothers for NES. No fancy graphics there." No, the vertigo doesn't really affect me in my everyday life, other than what I said before about the carnivals. But yeah, I typically can't play a lot of like very flashy games. Like that's why real time strategy is the games I typically prefer. Things like StarCraft or this new Homeworld 3 that came out. It looks really cool. I want to try that out, but you know, too busy with life and stuff like that. But I could play those because you can like pause the game and just kind of chill out for a second and just do stuff. But if it's like kind of moving around like first person shooter, those are just like kind of not for me anymore. RemGB asks, what card do you use for utilities? I use US Bank Cash Plus for that. I got that card to create a relationship with US Bank before getting the Altitude Reserve. So I don't use a card specifically for utilities. And so that's why I want to get the US Bank Cash Plus. I looked at a lot of my utilities and a lot of them even don't accept credit cards in general. I have to use a checking account. But for those that do have credit cards, I do want to add those to my, the US Bank Cash Plus to my arsenal, so I could do that. But it's not something that's higher up on my list at this point. Okay. MR asks, I pay all my bills and insurance in 50 cent to $1, $5 increments, and I also add $1 at a time to my Amazon account for orders and groceries. Plus, Rewards Plus rounds up, so 20x per dollar. Wow, that's a unique strategy there, MR. Thanks for sharing that with us. I didn't really ever think of that. RemGB asks or says, on the question of big spend, no return comes close to getting sign up bonus from Chase or other business cards without any permanent impact to your card history. I'm sort of addicted to welcome offers. Yeah, I mean, for Chase, it's hard because you always get a hard pull, like no matter what. I mean, it's not a permanent impact to card history, but it's definitely something that's going to be there because of the hard pull. That's why Amex business cards are so powerful because they have that soft pull that comes up, which is very, very cool. Cesar is in the house. Great to see you, my friend. I think it's a Hermano Cesar. Hermano Cesar, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. He calls me the man, the myth, the legend is live. Appreciate that so much. And I appreciate all of you for being here as well. Also, Chad Pennycuff is being there. Chad Pennycuff is here too. Good to see you, Chad, from my DVC points. Definitely. Great content there on Disney stuff. So definitely check out his channel if you can. Okay, so I'm going to take a little break here. We'll start with our live presentation here. So we have a lot of questions to go over in today's live Q&A. So thank you so much again for those of you who left comments on the community post. Dalton this weekend is going to go on a road trip, so he wasn't able to make it. But we wish you, Dalton, a very happy birthday, and hopefully you can watch the replay and get some value out of this live stream. Tariq is here too. Tariq says 2 lives in 1 week. That was back when I was announced it right before my live stream with Joe Barretto. And so you haven't seen Joe Barretto's live stream with me, check it out, or his channel in general, check it out. But yes, this is my second live in 1 week, and not necessarily something I'd like to do too often, but that's the way the schedule worked out. And so that was really cool. So let's begin with our first question here. And so the first question comes from the internationalist, and he asks, please talk about calculating cents per point and redemption. I have no idea how to do the math. And so it's something that we can explain pretty simply. And so I'll go over that equation for you. But I did a recent video about cents per point and how I didn't really care about it. And so I want to clarify that I do actually care about cents per point. The point I was trying to make with that video is that it's not the end all be all. It's just something that you should use as a calculation to make sure you're getting a somewhat decent redemption. Although some things like convenience or simplicity or whatever is going to be higher than the cent per point. And that's for me. Some of you want the highest cent per point, and I think that that's totally cool. Like there's no shame in that or no problems with that, but it's just not what I look for as the most important part when I redeem something. So what does that mean? So a cents per point is actually this equation here. That's the official equation for it. And so what you're looking at here is the cash value of the redemption minus the taxes and fees that are paid divided by the points or miles redeemed plus the opportunity cost, and all that multiplied by 100% would be your cents per point. And so we typically don't talk about the opportunity cost, but we'll kind of go over that in a moment about what that specifically means. We typically do is we see those the 3 things there. So it's the cash value first. So that's basically how much your hotel or airfare stays. For this example, say hotel. The taxes that you pay from that as well as divided by the points or miles redeemed. So say, for example, you had a hotel that costs like, $1,000. Sorry, a hotel room that cost $100, and you had points or miles that could redeem that room for 10,000 points. So $100 is 10,000 pennies. So $100 over 10,000 points is 1 cent per point when you do the math all the way through. Now, when you subtract the taxes and fees out of the hotel, that may make that cent per point calculation lower because the numerator is now a larger number, a larger percentage. Um, but the reason why we do the taxes and fees paid and we take that out is because you'll pay those taxes and fees anyways, even if you're booked this group in cash. And so you want to make sure it's as equal as possible when you do the cents per point calculation. And so basically, even though you can do just cash value over points and miles redeemed, to be more accurate, you can take out the taxes and fees. And you see this a lot with airline redemptions when you have that $5.60 TSA taxes from the U.S. airports. That gets commonly taken out of the airfare when you have that price. Now, I want to do a little bit here on the opportunity cost. So, what does that really mean? So, an opportunity cost basically is the points or miles you could have received when you made a cash booking. So, say you were staying at a Marriott and you used your Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant card to book that, or could have booked that for whatever cash flow that is. Say it was a $200 hotel room. You booked on the Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant. It's 6x points back on Marriott. We'll just not worry about the other stuff for now. But that's like 1,200 points you could have gotten from the Brilliant if you use that to pay for it in cash. And so you would add that value on the denominator there, where it's points or miles redeemed. And because you're adding to the denominator, it is also going to lower your cent per point calculation as well. But again, you're trying to be as accurate as possible when it comes to this, because it is important to know that when you buy something with cash, you do get points back for it. And so that is something that you have to think about when you think about the opportunity cost that you would have if you had booked that in cash, because that does play to some factor of what's going on with cents per point. And I hope that made a lot of sense. It's a little bit confusing. I mean, if you really want to be simple about it, you just take the two values on the left, which is the cash value of redemption, as well as the points or miles redeemed on the denominator. That's the easiest way to do it. If you want to be more accurate, you can add the secondary stuff over there, and that would give you your most accurate cent per point calculation. Okay, so that is cents per point. The next question comes from Tuan. Tuan asks, what are your thoughts on getting into the points and miles game if you live near small airports? I can't find any good award redemption or lounge access via my small airport. Driving to big airports like Boston or JFK for 3 to 4 hours just to redeem, quote, free flights seems like a hassle to me. Thanks. So I have the same issue because although it's not a 3 to 4 hour drive, I live in the kind of Southern California area that's a little bit east of LA. And so it's not necessarily next to LA, but I have a lot of regional airports around me that are closer that I can't really get these direct nonstop flights to redemption areas. It has to be through LAX. And so I do have to drive a little bit to get there. That has been my strategy, is I just don't have to, because Southern California area is so small, and so not small. It's large, but you can drive to LAX pretty easily from the areas in Southern California. I just drive there, and it's kind of how I do my redemptions if they're larger redemptions. But in your situation, if it's larger or longer than that, one thing you can do is take a look at the airlines you're looking at for your trip. And so if we take a look at the hub airports of kind of the big three airlines, which are Delta, United, and American Airlines, you can see that these are hub airports that all the regional airports fly to. And then from these hub airports, you can actually fly out and go into different areas that are kind of longer, like international flights or any kind of longer trans-US flights, things like that. So if you look at the way they look here, if you go to your regional airport and you're saying you're flying for example, to the West Coast from where you are on the East Coast in the Northeast, you can actually take a regional airport flight and do something called a positioning flight, which is a lot of what people talk about when they talk about doing redemptions is you have to get a positioning flight first to get to where you want to go. So if you're going to the West Coast, you can fly to maybe Chicago, and then you can take that Chicago flight and fly to the West Coast, go to Asia, go to Europe, or do what have you. Or you can go to some other hub in the area. Atlanta's a big one, for example, for Delta. And so you can just choose that airport to fly to as a connecting flight. So I know it's not the best way to do it. I know that driving 3 4 hours is a long time. That may be your best bet. But if you can find a connecting flight that's somewhat affordable that you can fly to first and then take that nonstop or international redemption from whatever airport you're flying to from the regional airport, then that would be one way to do it. I also want to address the lounge question. And so there are also regional lounges in different airports, and I'm not sure which airport you're from, but there's definitely options in them too. The Escape Lounges by Amex is one example of this. Escape Lounges used to be a part of the network, but then Amex bought it over, so now they're part of the Amex network specifically. There's definitely a couple of those in the regional airports that I fly into. And so, what's nice about those lounges is that they're smaller, but they are able to accommodate you, and you can still use your benefits on your credit cards to get into those lounges. And so, not only are there escape lounges, there are things like Plaza Premium or even Priority Pass, which are I think more common than you'd see escape lounges. And on the note of Priority Pass, I want to make sure that we all understand kind of the state of the Priority Pass credit card game at this point because it has changed a lot since we had started. And so, if you look at the Priority Pass here, these are the credit cards that I can see that give you Priority Pass that I think are somewhat important. So I'm going to go over all of them at once. So the Reserve, U.S. Bank Reserve, and the Bank of America Premium Rewards Elite credit card both have the most powerful Priority Pass at this point, in my opinion. And this is why they both have non-lounge access. Now, the Reserve only has 8 of them a year, so it's kind of limited. But the Premium Rewards Elite credit card has them unlimited, right? And so this is the only one left. At this point, the Sapphire Reserve and the Ritz Carlton still give you that, but not until only until July 1st, 2024. Now, what's nice about the Bank of America Premium Rewards Elite credit card and its Priority Pass access is that we're all conditioned to believe that you need to have an authorized user to have the Priority Pass access to. And I thought this too for a long time because I only had one and it didn't really matter. But when I dug into it, actually, you don't need to have any authorized users on your Premium Rewards Elite credit card to get Priority Pass access. You just need to get the card yourself, and then you actually can apply for 4 other Priority Pass memberships, including yourself. So you don't even need to give the person you want the Priority Pass to an authorized user. You just go onto the website, type in your number, they give you, the names, and you can fill out the whole information, and they get their own Priority Pass. So that's super powerful and something that I think is worth mentioning. I know the Premium Rewards Elite credit card also gives you free authorized users, but that's for a separate purpose. And so you don't need to have that for the Priority Pass memberships. What makes the Sapphire Reserve and the Ritz-Carlton cards more powerful in some ways is that they do give you access to the Sapphire lounges, excluding the Ritz-Carlton, which does not give you that Austin Airport Sapphire Terrace. So if you live in Austin, like, for example, Spencer Johnson does, the Sapphire Reserve is a better card in terms of its Priority Pass to get access to that particular lounge. But other than that, all the other Sapphire lounges do give you the Sapphire lounges get access from the Chase Sapphire Reserve card as well as the Ritz-Carlton card. Of course, American Express Platinum card gives you Centurion lounges and Escape lounges, as well as all the other lounges from the Centurion Lounge Network. But there's no now non-lounge access to that card, as well as the Capital and Metrorex also gives you non-lounge access as well. And of course, it gets you Capital One Lounge. But with this card, it gets you the 4 free authorized users. But once you get the authorized user, then you can apply for their own Priority Pass. So that's kind of where that comes from. So I think that's kind of what I would say with the state of the Priority Pass credit cards here. I have some comments down here, so I'll kind of put them up, see if we can get any more information. Chad Pennicuff says, I believe you need to dig into deeper than non-lounge. CSR is cutting restaurants, but keeping minute suites or minute suites, gaming lounge, etc. All right, thank you for that, Chad. I did not realize it was just restaurants, but that is something that is important to point out because those other lounges are important too. So thanks for pointing out. So I guess CSR and the Ritz-Carlton will have no more access to restaurants, but the other lounges are okay. And then QC Man also says the same thing, only use restaurants. So thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that for both you, QC Man, as well as Chad. So just make sure that I didn't change the slide, I guess. So it says prevent restaurants only that are not being available. The next thing I want to cover is a break. So I think we're going to come back up to my face here. We'll kind of cover any more questions you had. I want to scroll back to where we left off, which wasn't too far back. Tower C says, do you think the Alaska Visa 3X rent through built is a good deal? I thought it was a good deal until they decided to charge a 3% transaction fee on your rent. So that's going to be a case-by-case basis. Is 3X points back on Alaska miles on your rent good? Yes. If you have a $2,000 rent payment, that's $6,000 minus 3% of 1,000 is like what, $60? So you're paying $60 for $6,000 Alaska points. I mean, it's not bad, but you're paying money for it, so you have to figure out for you if that's worth it or not. I think if you're gunning for Alaska miles, it may be worth it. Keith says the Amex Biz Plat gives 1.5x on spend of $5,000, which isn't that bad if you're paying for something like taxes that doesn't qualify for multipliers. I think that's a great point, Keith. I mean, I use this all the time. Every time I get a business platinum card, like almost every transaction on it is going to be a 5x or $5,000 plus transaction, because that way you can, first of all, get to the 15,000 MSR fairly quickly. But second of all, you do get take advantage of that 1.5x multiplier, which is, better than one. And because it's just a big purchase, it does add up over time. David Williams says, got a 75K ink, was tired of waiting. I need other point courses than Chase. Hopefully I get a match 90K later. Yeah, I think we're all waiting for that 90K offer there. I personally just wait in the weeds for it. I'm not like in the rush to get it, but certainly if you need UR points, the Chase Ink family is definitely the way to go. Keith mentions that Marriott charges taxes and fees on redemptions. Hilton Hyatt do not charge tax and fees. Thank you for that clarification. I did not know that because I don't really do a lot of redemptions with Hilton Hyatt, but I certainly do with Marriott, and they certainly do charge taxes and fees. And so, again, I think the Marriott program is not nearly as good. It's basically all they're running on is their convenience and their just plethora of properties, which is really, really cool to see. But again, if you're looking for more value, more rewards, then Hilton Hyatt may be the better way to go. Brad Wideshot asks, if you could only have one or two hotel cards, which ones would you choose? I have no hotel preference. The Ritz-Carlton looks like a great one card system, but I don't know. I mean, my answer is always going to be the Hilton Aspire card or the Hilton Surpass card, depending on what you're looking for. The Hilton Gold status is it's complete money, because not only is it money figurative, it's money literally, because again, that $25 food and beverage credit is not to be underestimated, especially if you have two people with that, because this was doubled. And it's every day of your stay. So you're staying for, I don't know, 5-7 days. You can see how that adds up over time. I don't think there's any other program that has that kind of benefit for that cheap of a price, at lowest at $150 at the Surpass. But of course, Aspire will give you some more benefits too if you want to get the 85K free night certificate, and then some other benefits with the resort credit and the airline credit. Higher buy-in, but I would go with that if it's a one or two card setup. And of course, if you're looking for Marriott's, that's a different story. If I were to have one Marriott card, it would certainly be the Brilliant card, because it does have the Platinum Elite status, like I mentioned earlier in the live stream. Platinum will give you that higher level status that's more relevant than, for example, Marriott Gold, which is really not that helpful, in my opinion. Okay. John R has left us a super chat. 95 watching, 26 likes. Hit the like and subscribe. Thank you so much, John, for that super chat. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Definitely like and subscribe if you can. And of course, I want to make sure that you all can see this here, to make sure to don't forget the like button if you're getting value. We have a lot more questions to cover. We have actually one that's coming up that's going to be a little more detailed, which is really nice, because I didn't have as many questions on this post this time around, but I had one that was very detailed, and we're going to go over that one, and that's going to be really, really good. Okay, so thanks so much, John. JB Media Guy says, Stan the man, always appreciate the live chat and live streams. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Piggybacking off the opportunity cost question, I've been thinking about shifting one of my US Bank Cash Plus categories, but most utilities charge a fee. Thoughts? So the fee typically tends to be 3%. If you're getting 5% back, you're still getting 2% back on that transaction, even though you're paying a credit card with it, which is good, right? And so you kind of want to do that. I think if you can get it to that point and they let you do it, it's worth it. Because if you use a checking account, for example, you get 0% back, obviously. So 2% is better than 0%. So the math works. And so I would recommend, if you have utilities that you can use for the Cash Plus, I would totally do it, because it's the one card that I know of that gives you that 5% cash back. And because of that 3% fee that typically happens, you still come out ahead. All right. So Chad Penningoff saying that the 3x counts towards Alaska status. That's good to know too. So thanks for bringing that up as well. That's a very good point. So if you're looking for status and it counts, then that can add up fairly quickly too. And so that may offset the 3% fee that you're getting. Although, because it's 3% on like a couple $1,000s probably of charges, it can add up also too over time. So it's a hit or miss. You got to think about it for yourself, what you're really looking for. Albert Tom, are you crapping on the IHG Premier business? I am not crapping on that. I actually haven't discussed that card at all. Actually, I think that card's a really great card, and I may or may not have gotten that card in the recent past. We'll see. All right. I gotta take this off. Sorry. All right. Going back to comments here. Houston Man says over 100 watching. Yes, thank you so much for you all being here. I mean, you can spend your time anywhere. It's a Saturday morning, but we're talking about our favorite topic here, which is credit cards. And it's always my pleasure to be here every month just to answer your guys' questions and to really deliver as much value as I possibly can. Not only do I kind of talk about that, but you guys in the chat also teach me things. Like I learned a lot of things from you guys already. For example, a lot about that, Alaska status that Chad just talked about, as well as, what Chad and QC Man said about the Priority Pass restaurants versus the non-lounge type of things. That's something that I didn't know. And so I looked for it, didn't find it, but, you guys are on the ball, on the pulse. So I really appreciate you guys coming in and just educating all of us, together. It's all a big, team. It's a team sport. And so I appreciate all the comments and all the different things that you guys are talking about. So thank you so much. Kevin Wynn says the Amex Target welcome offer is very good. Like me, got the 175K MR points on the Amex Platinum. Man, I actually had one of my friends, hopefully he's in the chat, maybe he's not, but one of my friends here, the 175K Amex Platinum, and I was so pumped for him because, that was like when it first came out. Like the highest I ever seen was 150, but then I kind of got a 175 and we were able to get it for him. And so that is a sick offer for platinum. And when I got mine, it was 100,000. I thought that was really big, but it's just going up and up and up. And so to get that 175K platinum, nice, Kevin. Nice. Justin Manning says, do you think Chase will ever add a pure grocery category to one of their cards? Not online groceries. I use my Amex Gold now, but may cancel depending on the looming updates. I hope they have it eventually. I don't think they will because they are Chase and they just don't want to improve their cards. But, I think that if they wanted to improve their cards, having grocery would be helpful. They do have the Chase Freedom Flex rotating grocery category, but that's kind of useless because people buy groceries, more than 3 months out of the year. But, I hopefully they do. I think if they do a refresh, that would be one of the top things that I think a lot of people would want. Okay. JC says, assuming the Strata Elite is a refresh prestige, which we'll go over in a moment, do you find it more intriguing that the Citi Strata Premier in a Citi setup with double cash rewards plus and 1 or 2 custom cash? Thank you. I think that we'd have to see what the Strata Elite is. The Premier covers a lot of categories that I'm sure the Prestige won't. Prestige, I guess Strata Elite presumed, if it's like the Prestige, it's more travel focused as opposed to Premier. It is travel focused too, but you have things like, groceries and gas, some of those everyday categories. And so if they were to have that sort of setup, they would be very, very powerful. And with the custom caches, like it'd be like a kind of game over for a lot of people because those are not only 5% cash back, it's also 5x thank you points. And so you can transfer those to the transfer partners, which are pretty decent. And so that would be just a slam dunk. They'll probably release it in some weird way because that's how they roll. But we'll have to see what that's like. Okay. Spencer Hewitt says, hey, Stan, can't stay long because I'm at work. Oh, I'm sorry you're working on Saturday. That's a bummer. Will this be posted as a video after? Yeah, so there's going to be a live stream. Of course, the video on demand will be posted after the live stream's over. And then also I take 2 clips from these live streams as regular videos for the rest of the week following next week. And so with that, we'll go back to our presentation here. I do want to cover this question. Now, it's a longer question. And what's really nice about this one is that these are one of my favorite questions to answer because it goes over credit card strategies based off what you think is your credit card strategy. And there's not going to be a right or wrong answer to any of these questions. But because of, the questions you may ask or some of the things you may look for, what's really fun about doing these types of questions is that you get to kind of dig into what types of credit cards you may or may not want. And I think this is a really good one. So I'm going to read it to some degree, and then we'll kind of go into it. So, hi, Stan. I like your take on my endgame setup of these credit cards, which we'll go over in a moment. Every credit card can work for me except the rideshare credits, 1 clear credit, and 2 global entry credits. The airline credits will work for Delta E credits, which can be used along with the companion passes. He is looking for medallion silver status on Delta for Sky Priority Bad Drop at MCO, which is Orlando, since the normal lines are crazy long. The Euro points is for Hyatt, MR points is for transfer for domestic flights at 2 cents per point. He travels with his girlfriend at least twice a year. He tends to focus on F1 in Miami and Vegas. Those are very expensive times to go, but he says that resorts are plentiful in the areas. He thinks of maybe replacing Delta cards with the Ritz-Carlton and Brilliant cards. And should he add or cut a card or 2 or idea for a better setup? And he says that the CSR gives him Sapphire Lounge access at the Miami Grand Prix and has special tickets with Amex Platinum, doing the same for Vegas Grand Prix. And so definitely CSR and the Platinum are the 2 cards he wants to keep. So I kind of sped through that a little bit, so I'll leave it up here just a little while longer. But we are going to go into his credit card setup in more detail. And so he has about 12 cards listed here at the top. And so I'm going to show you this picture here, which basically shows all of his credit cards that he talked about in that particular setup. So I organized it in a way that would look like what I would imagine he would be using his cards for. So he basically is running the Amex trifecta, so the Platinum, Gold, and the Blue Business Plus. He has two airline cards, which are the Delta Reserve, which I'll, just for funsies, I put that new 747 white model, as well as the Delta Platinum. He also has two Aspire cards, which are for Hilton. Then he has a bunch of Chase cards and Citi cards at the bottom. And so the top tier is kind of what I would think is kind of the primary setup, which is going to be your Amex trifecta. You're using the middle tier for benefits, so there's secondary kind of setup where you're not really spending on them per se, but you are using them for your benefits. And then on the bottom, you're having a lot of 5% cashback situations. You have the OG Freedom, the Freedom Flex, the Chase and Cash, and the Citi Custom Cash card. Of course, the Chase Sapphire Reserve to kind of tie it all together and give you access to those transfer partners. And so this is actually what the annual fees look like on those credit card setup. You have an annual fee of $3,600, which is a lot. I think we can certainly do better with that. And so kind of let's go over what I think is my first initial thoughts here. Well, before we do that, I do want to mention that with this, there's a lot of statement credits. And because of that, it's because of Amex. Because you're focusing on Amex credit cards, you have a ton of like so many statement credits. And if it looks overwhelming to you, it's because it is. All the credits in orange are monthly credits. All the ones in red are going to be your quarterly or semi-annual credits. And so that's really a lot of credits to go with, not to mention that you have black credits on the bottom, which are just yearly credits. So that's a lot of credits. And not to mention, you have two Spires. So each credit on the second portion on the side is actually doubled. So you have two quarterly flight credits, two semi-annual Hilton Resort credits, and then two clear credits. And so again, a lot of credits. And I think if you had this many credits for a year, it's maybe okay. But once you start to get to like 2 or 3 years, it's going to starting to get real taxing. And so I would just keep that in mind as we move forward. So my initial thoughts, you have a lot of annual fees, and 86% of that comes from Amex, which is typical of Amex, right? The only annual fee you have that's not Amex is the 550 Chase Sapphire Reserve. You have 23 statement credits. That doesn't include the TSA or global entry credit, which is insane. 9 monthly credits, 2 quarterly credits, 3 semi-annual credits, and then 9 annual credits. Again, a lot. I'm just saying it as it is. I'm not saying that this is a bad setup at all. I'm just saying that, I'm trying to analyze it in a way that, how would we improve on this setup? Like I mentioned before, the primary setup is the Amex trifecta, and then you're using your secondary, which is a lot of 5% cards, which is the Chase UR cards plus the Citi Custom Cash. So there's that. So we're going to go over 3 things here. There's going to be some improvements. We're going to address the Delta Silver Medallion situation and kind of what that means to you. We're going to address the kind of the hotel goals, the hotel question. Basically, do you want to start with the Brilliant and the Ritz, or do you want to just chill out and just keep the Delta cards? That's an important thing. And I also want to address your core setup, how that's going to work, how that strategy is going to work out for you, because the core setup is what you use on your everyday basis, your everyday spending. And if you really dial that in really well, you can use that and you can really condense that to have less annual fees, more benefit, and then you can focus on the benefit cards that maybe have higher annual fees because you have things like free night certificates or other benefits. They can really work themselves out and give you net positive value. Now, the secondary, these are not like, I don't want to poo-poo on these, but it's just that with these particular improvements, you're also going to lower your annual fees and lower your statement credit burden pretty well too by addressing these primary situations or primary questions we have. So starting with the first thing, which is the Delta Silver Medallion status, it sounds like you really want to have Delta Silver Medallion, which is totally cool. And as we all know, they refresh their cards, and so now you have to have. They're basically using that status as a MQD situation. So to get silver status, you have to spend money on your cards. And so the way to do that with the Delta Platinum and Reserve is if you have one Platinum card, you get 2,500 MQD as a boost. You have another Delta card like the Reserve, you can also boost it up too and get another $2,500 as well, or 2,500 MQDs as well. So that's 5,000, which is the minimum amount you need for Delta Silver Medallion status. Now, the question then becomes do you really need the Delta Reserve card if you just want Delta Medallion status? Well, it depends, right? So the difference is they have the same statement credits. The annual fee is $300 less, so there's that part of it. So if you want to drop it down a little bit, you can take that out. There's also the issue of the companion certificates too, because the Delta Reserve has a companion certificate that can be used for, I believe it's like first class, business class, and some other stuff. And then the platinum is like that other stuff, like main cabin plus and like economy, things like that. So basically, the companion certificate on the Delta Reserve is better than the platinum, but you are paying for it. So one of the stipulations of that, and I believe I'm right, but I could be wrong. Just fact check me in the chat here. You need to pay cash for that companion certificate to work out. And so if you pay cash for a first class ticket, you can use that companion certificate to use that as a, to get your companion on there. The question then becomes, do you want to spend money on a first class ticket? Because those tend to be very expensive. Um, you may not. I don't know what the answer is, but if you may not want to do that and you literally just want the certificate to have one and you don't mind flying economy, the platinum card may be a better option. That is something I would just think about when you think about going through the medallion silver status. And next thing I want to go over is for the airline situation is, do you think you even need medallion silver status? Can you get away with not having that? Because although you do mention you get sky priority, you get the access to the baggage drop at MCO that the lines tend to be long. If you don't have that benefit, the other benefits that come with Silver SAS are things like first check bag free, priority boarding, and these can be easily gotten on the lower tier airline cards. So I just listed a few just as an example. You have the AA Platinum Select, which gets you a first check bag free and priority boarding, and they all do this by the way for $99 after a zero intro annual fee. You have the United Explorer card, which has the same thing for $95, but you also get 2 United Club passes per year, which is pretty cool. And then you also have the Delta Gold card, which is kind of the lower tier Delta card it's a little bit more expensive, but you do have a Delta Stays credit. By the way, if you are into business cards, Delta Gold Business is a better option because it gets $150 for a Delta Stay credit, which is going to make your net annual fee zero if you could use it 100%. So I say Delta Gold, but Business Gold is probably the better option, just to throw it out there. But anyways, um, all these cards offer, like I said before, first check bag free and priority boarding, which are still Delta Silver medallion benefits. So do you need to fly Delta? Can you fly the other airlines? Because I looked at MCO. MCO is not a hub airport. They fly Delta, they fly United, they fly American Airlines. It's not specific to one airline. Like for example, Atlanta's like mostly Delta, or like Chicago's mostly United, right? MCO is kind of one of those airports that has all three, and so you can really pick and choose depending on what you want to fly on. And so you can really drop those annual fees and drop those statement credits by a lot just by eliminating both the Delta Reserve card and the Platinum card if you wanted to do so. But just food for thought. Chad Pennycuff comes in saying that as a Delta loyalist, which is good because I don't fly Delta at all, but he does. The Delta companion certs are a pain. The eligible fares sell out fast before the flights get discounted, so you don't really get a full BOGO value. That's good to know. I've heard stories about that. I don't have any personal experience, but I really appreciate you putting out your data point there for us because I hear that the Delta program is just not nearly as good anymore because of the changes. But anyways, back to this. I think that having the lower tier cards is an option to make it better. That would be something to think about, depending on if you really, really want that silver medallion status or not. So, really, the take home points from what I just talked about is so you had the Delta Reserve and you had the Delta Platinum. You can consider just taking the Delta Reserve and just dropping that to 2 Delta Platinum. So you may not be able to have 2 Delta Platinum. So Platinum Business, I think, is kind of how you would do that. That would drop your annual fees down by a fair amount, at least $300, and have hopefully better Delta certificates to use that are for economy. Again, if you want to pay for a first class flight, that is, you can. It's a lot of money, so you do get more value back from the companion certificate. But I don't know. It's up to you. I would consider your lower tier cards, and if United or American Airlines would make sense, that's important too. Because again, where you're saying your home airport is really important to and pivotal to the decision here. At MCO, if that's your home airport, they do fly United, AA, and Delta equally, and so you can pick and choose what you want to do. Um, and then also by doing these things, you can lower your annual fee and your statement credit burden, like I mentioned before. So that brings us to the next point, which is the hotel question. The question you asked me is, should I get the Brilliant or Ritz instead of the Delta cards? And so I looked at your setup, and I think 2 Aspires is fine. And just to kind of really quickly go back so we can see it all again, this is your setup again. So you have 2 Aspires. Those are only 2 hotel cards. And so you're thinking of dropping the Reserve card and the Platinum card again, or the Platinum card to get hotel cards. I actually think having Hilton as your main setup is fine because I think Hilton is just such a great program with such great rewards. It's a good balance between like the Hyatt, which gets you the better cent per point, and the Marriott, which kind of sucks, but they have better convenience. Hilton has more convenience than Hyatt, but like not as good rewards. And so I think having that is good. And their FNCs, they're just money. They're great. If you can get good redemption on those, like you can get a lot of value out of those. So I'm a really big fan of doing the Hilton situation. So um, for you specifically, you mentioned that you go to F1 in Vegas and Miami. And so at those locations, you also mentioned resort credits or resorts are easy to find. So if they're easy to find, then it doesn't matter if the credit is resorts only or Hilton regular. You can use those credits for the resorts and make value of the $200 credits on both cards. So you may even consider getting a third Aspire or another Hilton card, depending on what you want to do. So thing about this is that there's no need to get a Brilliant card or Chase with Carlton unless you think you'd get some value of Marriott or you want to stay at more Marriott for whatever reason. That's going to come kind of to you as well. And so um, that's kind of what I'd say with that. I would say again, if you want another Hilton Phoenix certificate, the Hilton Aspire card is the way to go for that. You can get a third one, I think, no problem. Depending on, I didn't count your Amex cards, but if you have enough, like 5 or less, then that would be fine. Also, the Surpass card, it would add another quarterly credit, although it's more general, kind of Hiltons as opposed to Hilton Resorts. Lesser of a annual fee. You can either, if you want to downgrade one Hilton Aspire, you can. If you want to add this onto the Hilton Aspires you have, you can. But basically, you get a 15K FNC. So if you think that you can spend $15,000 in a whole calendar year, it's a very powerful way to do it. I know we're going to go over this in a little bit, but you also have a lack of grocery category because you only have a Citi Custom Cash. So if you want to use the Surpass for that card, that price, maybe that can help you get to that 15K over the course of a year, and then also get a 15K FNC as well, which is super awesome. So the hotel take home for this is to consider more Hilton Aspires. It's still the best card, even though they raise the annual fee and they put more credits on it. If you can use the resort credit and you can, handle the annual fee of $550, then I think it's totally fine. If you want to lower the annual fee, you can take the Hilton Aspire either direct to a Surpass, or you could just get another Surpass. So you have the ability to get 15K FNC over a year, depending on your spending. And then again, from my perspective, no need to get a hotel cards unless you really want to. And then that comes to the final portion of this, which is the category spend. And this is important because it kind of relates to your core credit card setup. And so everyone in the chat, just let me know if I'm wrong here, because I'm not really the best at redeeming points or knowing how to get the best redemptions. But you mentioned that you have Amex MR points that transfer for 2 cents per point domestic. And from what I understand, that's super hard to do because from what I looked at, there's 2 domestic carriers. There's Delta and there's JetBlue, and both of them tend to not redeem well just right off the bat. So then you have to go to your secondary option, which is transfer it to another partner airline and then transfer it through them. So you have things like Air France KLM to Delta, I would imagine, and then you have like British Airways for Avios to get to American Airlines, for example. I don't know if you get 2 cents per point from that either. Maybe if anyone knows, that would be helpful to drop it down in the chat. But I think doing that is very aspirational. You can get 2 cents per point on international flights. I think that's fine. But I think using MRs for domestic flight is not the best option. But what is a good option is to use Chase UR points for domestic flights. And so that's kind of what I'm going at here. Because if you were to switch your primary spending setup to Chase and Citi, now you have a whole lot more optionality to use your points for domestic travel at a relatively decent redemption value. And because you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, if you really wanted to, you could also buy domestic flights or redeem it, for 1.5x points back base on the Chase travel portal. So there's that. I'd also say, do you need the Chase Sapphire Reserve if that's a thing? I know you talked about that earlier, getting into the Miami Grand Prix lounge or whatever. But is there a way to cut down on that $550 annual fee, maybe down to $95 by using the Ink Preferred? And we'll see kind of why I say that in a second. So the first thing I want to say is the Citi Strata Premier is a great card, I think, in your situation. It's the same card that we had from before, and we'll see the slide later on in the live stream too. But you get 3x points back on kind of a lot of categories: air travels, hotels, restaurants, supermarkets, gas, EV charging, and then 1x and everything else. $900 annual fee. You've got transfer partners. You've got like $100 hotel credit or what have you. And so you have a lot of options to get value back on this card and have a lot of coverage on your core setup for a lot of categories, earning thank you points. And you already have a Citi Custom Cash, so you're already halfway there. Might as well go for it, right? I would say that because you have the gold card, I don't know what your spending level of food is. If it is like $500 to $1,000 or less, like a month, I would say maybe not the best card to use for that. If it's like, $2,000 a month, that's probably a good card to keep. Um, for the gold card, it's $250 annual fee. Here's the thing about the gold card. There are three things that are certain that it's going to happen. Okay. And we don't know when it's going to happen. It's going to happen very soon. I don't know if it's going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, tomorrow, who knows? The annual fee is going to go up. It's 250 right now. Okay. It's going to get more statement credits. And not only that, we know that the statement credits, or we are likely to think that the statement credits will get more restrictive. And by that, I mean, it may be like a Resi credit. You saw it in the Delta card. So you know it's probably coming to the gold card. All three of these things are not positive, right? And so we have to figure out how they're going to use this gold card in the future. And so because of that trajectory that they're going, because every other card that they've updated has done every one of these things, right? And so there's no way they're going to lower the annual fee on the gold card, right? There's no way they're going to give you less statement credits, and there's no way they're going to give you less restrictive statement credits. This is not going to happen. We all know American Express. This is exactly what they're going to do. So with that in mind, is that a card you want to keep? Only you're gonna know by the answer to that question. But again, I'm not saying it's a bad card. Again, if you can spend tons of money on this card, then it's cool. But if not, like you're kind of typical average user, then it may be worthwhile to get something better with a lower annual fee and less statement credits to help you burn it out. I just want to cover this real quickly. This is not part of it, but if you want to, I can have another 5% card. These AAA cards are super good. It's adding a new bank, which is Synchrony, which is not like my favorite thing to do if you're looking at strategies. But if you want to cover like a point for groceries or for gas, like one of these cards will be good for that setup just to cover it. Oh, it's just cash back. It's nothing like there's no transfer partners or anything like that. But I think it's something to think about if you want to cover that one category that you're maybe missing in your setup. Near the Citi custom cash already, so you have one coverage, but the other coverage, if you want to like think about that, those would be two options. So then we come over to the Chase Sapphire situation versus the Ink Preferred. So the Chase Sapphire Reserve gets you 3x on travel, and now I mentioned the Citi Strata Premier before. They have 3x. I'll go back to that just so we can look at it. They have 3x points on the travel category, but that travel category kind of sucks, right? So it's air travel and other hotels, which is fine. It's kind of the majority of what you'd spend on it, but there's a lot of things that are missing, like car rentals, like cruises, like parking, tolls, and trains and subways and like all this stuff is missing, right? So how do you cover that? Well, you cover that with a card from Chase or Bank of America that have travel categories that cover every travel and transit category possible, or I guess the Amex Green Card too. That's part of it too. So the reason why I point out to that is you need another card if you get the Strata Premier to cover those travel categories and transit categories that are missing on that other card. And so with the Sapphire Reserve, you get the React, which is cool. So if you want to keep that card, keep it. If you want to lower your annual fee, the Sapphire Preferred can also be helpful to lower that, but you only get 2x on travel. But on the Chase Ink Preferred, you get $95 annual fee for 3x on travel, which is so much nicer. And so because of the way you're using your cards, I think the Ink Preferred is a better option to have that coverage that the Citi Strata Premier is missing. And so that's what I would say with the Chase Ink Preferred too. So the category take home for this is going to be, you're going to use Citi for your core setup. You're going to use Chase for your 5x categories and the 3x transit category. Questionable cancel Amex Gold. If you're not using the Amex trifecta, maybe you don't need it anymore. And then do you think you want to get the Ink Preferred or product change the CSR to OG Freedom card? Those are things to think about when we look about the categories. So we take what we talked about with the airlines, the hotels, and the categories, and this is what we come up with. This is your new credit card setup that I think may be more helpful for you. Again, this is just based off the information you gave to me. There's going to be much more that comes into this if there's other information that I had, but based on what you gave me, this is what I think would be good. You have your primary setup being the Strata Premier, the Ink Business Preferred, and the Blue Business Plus. Now, the Blue Business Plus is not necessarily going to be the best thing, but because you have an Amex Platinum, I'm always in favor of having a secondary MR point earning card to make sure you can capture and hold those MR points in the rare case you want to cancel that high annual fee card. Because as you'll know, Blue Business Plus has no annual fee, and so you can keep those MR points alive with that card. However, you could replace it with the Citi Double Cash and then have a nice thank you point trifecta with the Citi Premier, custom cash, and as well as the double cash. We talked about the Delta situation. The Delta, I would say if you want to really lower your statement credits and lower your annual fees, the Delta Gold would be fine. You get again that first checked bag free on you, as well as I think it's 9 other people on your itinerary, as well as the first check, sorry, the priority boarding, which I think are the two things that I think are the most important to make your life a lot better in the air experience. You don't get that Delta Silver medallion like priority whatever, but that's kind of a think situation you have to think about for yourself. Definitely keep 2 Aspire cards. Again, you could add a Hilton Surpass or not, or another Aspire or not, kind of up to you. And you can see on the bottom there, now all those cards, if you have gotten the Chasing Preferred, you've now downgraded that Chase Sapphire Reserve to another Chase Freedom or OG Chase Freedom. And so if you look at the whole bottom row there, you have a whole bunch of 5X category cards, which is super awesome. And so I think that's great. And not only that, you have them all be no annual fee. And so if you look at this setup, you now have a reduced annual fee of about $2,000. So about a 40% decrease in what you had from before, which is not small. Certainly less statement credits than before. Still have a lot, but not as nearly as many as you had from before, which is, every little bit helps. And you want to balance, and this is important to know because you want to balance the difference between having a lot of statement credits and a lot of value because it's going to be a balancing act. And what I found is that the more time you spend with trying to maximize statement credits, the more exhausted you become because you want to do other things with your time. And because of that, that's something that is important to know too. It looks like I have someone at my door here, so this is really weird. I'm going to go ahead and go to a break here. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. So sorry about that. There was just someone at the door. So doesn't really happen usually for me, but when it does happen, I want to make sure that I don't leave them hanging. Okay. Oh, sorry here. I think we're good. Just double check. You can all hear me, correct? I think we're good here. Okay, so I hope you guys really enjoyed that credit card strategy video. Again, I love those types of questions because we can really deep dive into a lot of different aspects of credit cards. When you have, you know, a situation where you have a credit card portfolio, a lot of things go into like what's the best strategy for you or not. And so, because of that, when I get those questions, I just love it. So definitely keep them coming. Hope that was helpful to you guys. And of course, if you have any issues or any questions about that, just drop it down in the comments or chat down below. We'll kind of go through them. So let's go back to what's going on here with the chat. I apologize for missing a lot of them here. Um, let's see here. Ian Mass Cal says this is really awesome. I've never seen a creator breakdown of someone else's credit cards like this before. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'd love to do more of these. So if you guys have any questions, definitely leave them down in the comments of my community posts because I'll be happy to answer them for you. Again, this is all in good fun. I'm not saying one credit card strategy is better than the other. Everyone's going to be different. My strategy is certainly different from a lot of other people's strategies, and some people look at my strategy and think I'm crazy, but it depends on the person, right? And so everyone's individual situation is going to vary, and so that's really important to know too. Okay, so RW808 says just canceled the platinum coupon book this week after 8 years of use. No retention offer after 3 weeks of calling, chatting with them too. Definitely tax and keep up the credits. Absolutely. I mean, the platinum card is like the king of the credit, right? They call it the coupon book for a reason. And so that's definitely one thing we have to think about is figuring out if we want to keep these cards with a lot of statement credits. Warren, if you go to change from Hilton to Marriott and can't have Chase cards for the 524, what strategy can you use? Let's see. So if you go to change from Hilton to Marriott, you can't have Chase cards. Okay. One Marriott Business, one Bevy, 3 billion, and change Bevy from Art Modern 95. So what you're saying is you can't get Chase Marriott cards, so you have to get Amex cards. And so for me, I think it's hard to get. I'm not sure. I have to look at the terms and conditions, but I don't think you can have a Bevy and a Brilliant at the same time. I think that's part of their terms and conditions. I may be wrong about that, but I know you could have at least more than one Brilliant card and a business card, of course. And so the thing about having multiple merit cards is that it's not as good as having multiple Hilton cards because their free certificates are just not good. They're capped. They're capped at 100,000 points. They have an 85K free award plus 15K on top. That may not cover the categories or the types of hotels you want to stay at. Whereas Hilton free night certificates, they're uncapped. There's some exceptions on the exception list. But I think that if you were to do a better strategy, it's more beneficial to kind of keep it not as like that many free certificates as much as you would do with Hilton. So I would say like maybe two, at most with Marriott. So that's why the Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant free certificate at 85K plus the Ritz Carlton 85K would be a good combination. But again, I think that if you wanted to get a bunch of Marriott cards, I would go with the Brilliant and the Business at the very least, and then if Ritz Carlton, if you wanted to as well. Guangzhou Yang says the quarterly and semi-annual credits on Hilton Aspire are the only thing stopping me from applying. In comparison, the old Aspire looks so much better. And you're totally right. It was so much better until it got hit by the Nerf bat, right? And so it's going to happen every single time there's an update. It's going to be a Nerf bat, and it's going to get worse and worse. So you just got to enjoy the credit cards you have while you have them, because banks, we want to think that they're on our side, but they're not. They're trying to in the business of making money, which I totally get. But you have to just understand that they are just going to keep raising fees if they can get away with it, and try to appease that with these statement credits. And if they want to do that, that's fine, but just enjoy your cards while you have them at the way they are. Okay. If you're going to go to Hilton's, just buy gift cards with the credits. Yes, it's a very well-known strategy now, is that if you have the Hilton Business or the Surpass, you can use the online gift cards to purchase them, and they can count towards those statement credits, which is very cool. Okay. I'm going to keep going down here. Do you think the new Strata card will reduce their intro offer in the near future or stay at 75K? It is definitely going to be reduced. If it's anything like the old Premier card, it'll be 60,000 points, just like before. So this is limited time. It's an elevated welcome offer. So I would take it when you can, if you think you can beat the MSR. There's also that Chase Sapphire Preferred to Reserve welcome offer, bonus right now. So there's a lot of options for elevated welcome offers, which is awesome. Okay. So I'm going to keep going down here. Alex Osmond says, for those interested with B of A, are there any restrictions with the Premier Elite downgrade to custom cash strategy than rinse and repeat? Is there wait time to apply for the next Premier Elite card? There is no restrictions from I can know. I haven't tried this. I was going to do this earlier this year until I heard about the news where Chase is taking away the Party Pass restaurants. And so when they said that, because I had the Ritz Carlton card, that was going to be my primary Party Pass, I decided to keep the Premier Rewards Elite card for another year just because it has that Party Pass that's super powerful now. But I don't know if there's any kind of wait time to apply for the Premier Elite, specifically like the 24-month rule, the 12-month rule. But I'll definitely look into that because that's important to know. And definitely, and now I'm interested to see what that's going to be like. So if anyone has an answer to that question, just let me know down in the chat. But that's something important to know. Okay. Michael Pythium asks, hey, Stan, question. Can you product change an ink unlimited to an ink preferred? I would say yes. But then the next question I would say is why? I know that having that card helps you get the transfer partner, unlocks transfer partners for you. But I think a big draw of Ink Preferred is to get the welcome offer. And so because I believe it also has that 24-month rule as well. I would not want to do that unless you have multiple. And even if you have multiple, because the business card, you can actually use multiple types of businesses to get them. So LLC1, LLC2, your sole prop, you can like do that a bunch of times. And so I would not want to do that if I could help it. But maybe there's some situation where I think it may be worth it, but I'm not sure what that would be at this point. Okay. JV Media Guy says, churn and burn points or stack them up. Which preferred method? So before I got married, I was saving up for my honeymoon. That's kind of like what my goal was. So I had a goal for my points. And at that point, I was kind of stacking them up to make sure I had enough for the redemption I wanted to make. I would, of course, want to get the best value, but, when you're doing international flights, they can take a lot of points, and there's myself and my now wife. And so by doing that, having enough points was important to me. But now that I've redeemed all my points for that honeymoon trip, I'm really just trying to just burn them as fast as I possibly can. And so not to necessarily say I'm going to get super bad value all the time, but I'm trying to just earn and burn. And I think moving forward from now until the I guess, future, it's going to be just earn and burn. That's going to be my main strategy. Okay. And then Kevin Wynn says, "What you change on Amex Gold?" I don't know what the changes will be. I think, like I said before, increased annual fee, more statement credits, more statement credits. I am really hoping that they have. I'm really hoping they put a semi-annual, sorry, I said semi-monthly statement credit on there because that would be just hilarious if they did that. But as I said before, there's only one direction they can go to make it worse, and that's semi-monthly because they already have monthlies. So how can they make that any better or worse? Well, anywhere how can they any better? They can't. So they have to go in one direction. So we'll go to semi-monthly, then we'll go to weekly, then we'll go to daily, and so we'll kind of see how that trajectory goes. All right, so I'm going to go back to the chat. Sorry, the presentation here because we still have a lot more questions to go through. RemGB has a bunch of questions here. We'll have him start first. I know he's maybe hopefully he's still in the chat here. I have been reducing my paycheck tax payments so that I get to pay quarterly, and this has been causing a love affair with business card welcome offers for P1 and P2. Hopefully not a slippery slope. So what he's referring to is that if you have like a W-2 job on your, I believe it's your W-4 form, you can say you have some deductions or you don't need to take as much taxes out, and then you can just use that difference to pay off the taxes with your quarterly fees, and then you can use credit cards to do that. So that's I think is what it is referring to. I'm not sure when Alex will put me in pop-up jail. After welcome offers, do not put much spend on business cards as I am on to the next one. Any advice? Yes, so I don't have necessarily any specific advice for the business card specifically that you've already got the welcome offers on. Once they're done, they're kind of done, and you just wait 12 months and then you can cancel them if you want to. But what I can say is that there's several cards you can use for spending targets, and that's the kind of secondary after welcome offers, then what, right? And so I on the left side, you see here you have Amex upgrade offers. I put the Hilton uh, lineup there because the Hilton lineup is classically well known for the upgrade ladder, where you can have one, two, or three of these cards, and then Amex will offer to upgrade your card to another card and give you a spend target and some bonus points to have you do that. So that's one way to kind of, if you have those always in your rotation, you can always keep an eye out for those upgrade offers and to see if they're kind of fit for you in your scenario. The second thing is the Hilton Surpass card. And it used to be the business card, which really irritated me when they took it away, but it's fine. The Surpass card now has that 15K free night award. So as we know, if you spend $15,000 in a calendar year, you get a free night, which is great. That's the one I would target if you were to do that. There are also cards like the Chase Bonvoy Bountiful and the Bonvoy Bevy that has a similar thing. And I think those are dumb. I would not do that because those are 50K capped certificates. And those are like in the middle ground where it's not quite economy and not quite luxury. And so they're pretty much useless. And so I would just avoid those cards just in general. But the Hilton Surpass, still a very good card, still worth it. The build card I do want to mention too, because it gets you can have there's no spend target specifically, but it opens up secondary opportunities when it comes to the status you have with build. So you start at blue, which is nothing, and then after some spend, and the spend limits are 10,000, 25,000, and 50,000 respectively for silver, gold, and platinum. And so I want to go over that in a moment just so we can figure that out. But before I kind of get into that, let's talk about the Hilton free night certificates because and how they're really helpful. So I just did a really quick search in Beverly Hills for two types of hotels. And you can see that there's one on the left, which is Waldorf Astoria, and the other one on the right, which is the Beverly Hilton. And so if you look on the bottom underneath where the points are, it says one is a premium room award and one is a standard room award. And the FNC can only get you a standard room award. So that's a little unfortunate. So if you see that kind of on online website, make sure to choose the standard room reward, and then you can call the FNC people and they can help you with that. But with the premium rewards, you can't actually redeem those, which is unfortunate. But having said that, with this property in Beverly Hills, it's only premium room reward on the weekend. On the weekday, it actually becomes a standard reward. And just to let you guys know, this is on the left here. I would never use points to redeem that because that's just a terrible redemption. But you may consider using FNC on it, depending on if you think that value is there for you or not. Okay, so next of all, I want to go through the built status really quickly. So like I said before, there are spend targets on it as well as point targets, but we're going to target the spend targets today. And there are two ways to do that, like we mentioned before. So if you get into certain levels of built, they will give you certain levels of rewards. And so the rewards are going to be listed on this slide here. Now, the way that I kind of listed them out is that each tier has rewards, but then the next tier will have even better rewards, but will also include the rewards from the previous status. And so the one that we're really looking for here is that higher rent day transfer bonus. And so I don't know if you guys remember back from February, I think that's the month it was, there was an Aeroplan transfer bonus, and that thing was insane. You got a transfer bonus of 75% just for being a built member of Blue, which is pretty cool. And so if you transfer like, 1,000, or I guess that's 2,000 because it's Blue, 2,000 points, you would get, 75% back. So what's that? 70, there'd be another like 11, 1,500. Yeah, 1,500 extra points off a 2,000 transfer. Or if you were silver, you get 100%, gold, you get 125%, and then platinum, you get 150%. And so that's the benefit of having higher status with built, among other things. But you can't choose when those transfer bonuses happen, and you also can't choose which airline or hotel that is happening with. And so that's part of the issue, but it's still something to think about. What's nice about platinum status, they have these other things like a complimentary blade flight, which is something that's been new, where you can get one flight from like, Manhattan to like JFK or whatever by helicopter to avoid traffic. There's also an elite status match. It's pretty cool that where you can get to flying blue gold status, which gives you SkyTeam Elite Plus across Air France, KLM, Delta, and more. So that's nice. You get like a status with a credit card platinum status. So I don't know if it's worth $50,000 to do that, but it is something to think about when you're thinking about welcome offers and trying to figure out alternative ways to use more credit cards for different spending. I know it's a little bit a different answer to your question, MGB, but you did leave this other tip just like yesterday, which is really cool. So let's go over that real fast. There's a US Bank Altitude Reserve tip, which is he wanted to share this with all of us. And so when you think about Player 2 and US Bank Altitude Reserve, you do not need to add an authorized user for Player 2, but instead you can add the US Bank Altitude Reserve card into your Player 2's mobile wallet, and she can use it for any in-person payments, meaning any mobile wallet payments. I think that's a great a piece of advice. I actually did add my wife as an authorized user. The card number is the same and everything is the same. The card number, the CVV, the expiration date, it just has her name on it. And so ultimately, the only downside with what I did was that card added to her Chase 524 status. But she's still like she's still like 324, so that's not terrible. But if you wanted to avoid that aspect, I think what RemGB said here is a really good idea and a really good way to just circumvent that Chase 524 issue. Now, if this card's like 2 years old, it's like not a big deal. You can just do it, but definitely something to think about as an additional strategy. So thank you for that, RemGB. Okay, next question comes from Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee credit says Han Soloing this area. Yes, I'm alone today, but I want to intermix these like lives on my own versus with guests just throughout the year, just to make it keep it interesting. But the benefit of me doing this on my own is I can spend more time on your questions on my like individually. His question is: do you think that Marriott will continue to annually double? Sorry, will continue annually the double elite night credit per stay at Marriott? And he's talking about this benefit or this promotion where they'll actually give you 2 elite nights for 1 stay. Will they do that every year going forward, or was this year's promotion just one-off super bonus to gain elite night credits? If they do continue to do this, I will be staying at 5 paid nights every year to get the 5 nightly upgrade awards to use for award nights and point stays. Thank you as always for your wisdom in the CC game. I appreciate your compliments. Perfect. So let's talk about that. I do not think that they will get rid of it. Actually, they have been doing this every year for the past 2 years. And so on the bottom right here is what I'm talking about is the 1,000 bonus points and 1 bonus elite night credits each night. That happened, I think, between mid-February and late April of this year. So if you travel within that period of time, every night you stay, you got another elite night, which is cool. And so what he's referring to is that if you have a brilliant card, which you get 25 elite night credits, and the business card, which gives you 15 elite night credits, that's 40 elite night credits. And you need only 10 more to get to 50, which is going to be the platinum status. Now, not only do you get platinum status at 50, but you also get an annual choice benefit, which I showed you here on the top right of the screen. And so those are the types of benefits you can get. If you're gunning for titanium elite status, if you use the last option, which is to get a 5 elite night credit bonus, now you have 55 elite nights. So you only need 30 more. Sorry. 50, 55, you need 20 more to get the titanium elite status at 75 elite nights. So using this promotion to get 2 elite nights for 1 night at Marriott is actually cool because you can potentially get titanium elite for only 15 nights of stay in a whole year, depending on when you make those stays. Now, what he wants to do is he wants to just stop at platinum, which is totally cool, and get these 5 nightly upgrade awards to redeem for upgrades. And so these are actually, I mean, I had the Sweet Night Awards last year. I used them. It wasn't really my favorite way to use them because they would never work out, or they would refund them back to me, and I would never get the rooms that I wanted to. So it wasn't as good. And then when they changed the Sweet Night Awards to Nightly Upgrade Awards, it's no longer a suite. Definitely, it's like just an upgrade, and that could be like a higher floor, or like away from the elevator, or like next to the ice machine. The upgrade is very it's a very general term, and so because of that, it actually is kind of a downgrade. And so I personally would, if you can't get anything else, I would get that because why not? That'd be the best thing. But if you were going for elite status or titanium elite status, I would go for the 5 elite nights credits instead. But that's what he was referring to, and I definitely think that it will keep going because it's definitely a cool thing to have. Okay, Justin says, "Are you still a Marriott loyalist, or are you interested in other hotel brands? Curious to see your experiences in Southeast Asia." Yes. So it's a very interesting question. I actually am looking into diversifying into other hotel brands, although I do stay at primarily Marriott's and Hilton's. And actually, I wanted to show you this slide here, which is my 2024 hotel roster. And what this is basically the hotels that I have either already stayed at this year or will be staying at in the remainder of this year. And so what's in black is what I've already stayed at, like I said, and the orange is what I plan to stay on or already scheduled for the rest of this year. And of course, everything in orange is subject to change. But you can see that I've actually stayed in more Hiltons than I have in Marriott's at this point of the year. Although in total, I will have stayed in more Marriott's. And so I bring this up because I think it's important to just always take a look at what hotels you're staying at and kind of inventory of what you want to do and why you want to do it. And so because I can see that staying a lot of Marriott Hiltons, I'm going to make sure that I focus on those two hotels. I can see that I stayed at one Hyatt Regency, which is fine. I didn't say it. I don't stay at a lot of Hyatts, so that's okay. But it seems like for me, it's mostly Marriott and Hilton. Um, I also want to mention that one property or one hotel chain that is becoming more enticing to me is IHG. And the reason for that is if you look at IHG's map of where they're located, it's actually, there's a lot of them in Asia and Southeast Asia specifically. And that's really nice because that's actually where I want to stay and go to when I make my international trips. And so if I look closely at the Asia portion of the map, you can see that there's stuff in Korea, which is not Southeast Asia, but it's where I want to go sometimes. So South Korea, Japan, Thailand, Singapore, China, Taiwan, all these places where I want to visit, actually has a very strong presence there. And so I want to see, and this is like more of an experiment, if I can stay at more IHG properties and maybe make that sort of a main in Asia because they have so many properties that are there. Now, having said that, every other hotel chain also has properties there too. But just because I'm just trying to see something new, I've never really stayed at IHG properties before, other than the one that I stayed at, which was really nice, by the way. Um, this is something that I think I want to just try to test the waters with. And so on top of that, I think I want to also try to target not like the Holiday Inn necessarily, but the intercontinentals because of the ambassador status. So for $200 or 40,000 points, you can get this status and always get kind of a number of things. And so the three things you look at basically, if you already have a IHG Premier card or Premier Business card, which gets you Platinum Elite status already, is that you can get a one category room upgrade, which is pretty cool. You can get an extended 4 p.m. checkout, and both these are guaranteed, which is really cool here because sometimes it's like subject to availability, which is like, maybe, maybe not. You also get a complimentary weekend night, which is not as easy to redeem as you think it would be, but it's still something that you can work into your schedule, work into your system to get value from. And because it costs $200, and if you plan to stay at multiple intercontinentals, like I do plan on doing so in 2024, in the end of it, as well as 2025, I think that's something that I would definitely want to see, see what that would be like. And so I'm looking forward to it. I want to see if I can, maybe get one of those cards and maybe stay at more IHG properties. We'll just have to see what happens with that. Okay, so we're going to go to our break here. I want to make sure I cover everyone's questions if I can. So I'm going to go back here and see kind of where we're at. John McKinstry asks, let's say someone wanted to potentially get all of the welcome offers on the Marriott cards. What card or cards should you get first? And so what I'd say to that is that I did make a video about the Marriott strategy, which kind of covers all of that. It does not cover the bountiful or the bevy, but I think those cards are useless, so I wouldn't bother with those cards. The video I made focuses more on free night certificates, but you'd have to basically just understand that when you get chase cards, you lock yourself up from American Express welcome offers, Marriott cards for 24 months, and then vice versa too. So if you can find a strategy for you to stick in one ecosystem for a while and then move on to the other ecosystem, that's what I would do if you want to maximize welcome offers. But I don't know if there's a way that's better or worse. I would just say stick with one first and the other. If you want to go for Boundless first, then stick with Chase. If you want to go with the Marriott Bonvoy Business first, go with Amex first, and then kind of work it from there. Okay. Derek's Life Event says, I fly to the Philippines every other year. Would it be better to cancel the Amex Gold and get the new Citi card? This is going to be my first time using points. I have the BBP and the Chase trifecta. So it depends. It depends on which airline you're using. So I would target the airline first of what your redemption would be. And then based on which point system can target that airline, I would go with that one. The Amex Gold does get more points back than the new Citi card with the Citi Premier, Strata Premier card. So you have to think about it that way too. But I would also think about, is the majority we're spending in groceries and restaurants versus the other 3X categories in the Citi Strata Premier card. So that's what I would ask. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. It depends on your spending levels as well as what you spend the most in and what airline you want to take to go to the Philippines. Arvin Guy asks, is there a way to call in advance to figure out if a hotel has a room upgrade or suite available before you book if you have Hilton, Diamond, or Marriott Platinum? There's not typically. So you can always request by chat like a couple days before or the day of if there's a suite upgrade available. But typically when you book, there's no way of knowing because it's just um, that's just kind of how it is. Would say that if you book a single night in the middle of the week, there is a higher chance of you getting a upgrade than if you book on a holiday weekend or weekend in general or a 3 or 4 night stay. Because that way, if you have a longer stay, then there's less of a chance of having a single suite available for that particular day. Adventures of Wade and Peyton asked, do you think the Freedom Unlimited will have a 5% back on gas and groceries soon? I hope so. I think that's wishful thinking because that's two really good categories on a card that has no annual fee, but maybe they'll surprise us with something that we did not expect to have. Chris V says, hello. Good to see you, Chris V. Thanks for coming by to the live stream. Ben Hallberg says, thank you for your great content. 6 years in 2-player mode, 55 approval. That's a lot of approvals. That's like 6, 5. It's like 9 approvals a year across 2 of you. That's like 4 or 5. So 4 or 5 for both of you for 6 years. That's very, very good. Good job. I try to tune into several creators in the finance space and keep coming back to yours recently. Thankful. Well, thankful to you too. Thanks for coming by, Ben. Appreciate it. Keith says, built platinum status gets you Air France Gold. We talked about that too, as well as Team Elite Plus status. Chad Petticuff says, I call the player 2 Apple Wallet US bar my ghetto authorized user. Okay, that's fair enough. And then, let's see, John says, good point, Stan. You have to play the wait and see game with Built and hope you will get an awesome transfer out of Built points when the Built Rent Day promo is announced. Yeah, it's all like wait and see. That's what I don't really like about that. But again, if you have the status and you have the spend to meet it, then, I think it's something that's worth thinking about. Tyree asks, does it make sense to get the Built card right now, even though I'm not paying rent, but will be doing so in a year or two? I would just wait, Tyree. I mean, the rent issue is kind of the main way you're getting points on this card. If you find yourself getting higher value with like dining and like use it as a primary dining card, maybe. But I think rent is the way you're going to get the most amount of points. So if you don't rent, then I wouldn't necessarily recommend getting this card at this point. Although, if you do start renting, then maybe that would be a time to get it. Professor X says, good afternoon, Mr. Stan. Was curious if you plan on doing any videos about any of your future dream credit card setups. Yes, I may do that. The fun thing about my life right now is that I already have my dream credit card setup. Not saying that I can't improve it, but I really have my core credit card setup dialed with the US Bank Altitude Reserve, the Built MasterCard, and the Bank of America Premier League card. Then I have my supporting cards with their hotel cards, and then some legacy, bench cards too. And so I definitely plan on doing a video, I think in the next month or two, about what I can do to improve my current setup. But right now, my core setup is really dialed in, unless they decide to change something. So if they change one of those core cards to some way that makes it not worth it, then I have to figure out a new strategy, and that will be a good video too. So yes, that's on the horizon. We'll see kind of what that shows. Okay. Bruce Lee credit logged in just as you answered my question. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that we were able to do that for you. All right. So Ben Hallberg says, question regarding the Citi Advantage Platinum Elite MasterCard Player 2 is right at 524. If I recall correctly, I was approved for this while at over 524. What is the best place to find data points? Well, so 524 doesn't really affect Citi cards. So that's only going to affect Chase cards. So I think that's what you're asking. So if you're over 524, it's irrelevant because the Citi ecosystem doesn't really worry about 524, although they have their own credit card rules that I'm not familiar with. So you have to just look into those, make sure that you meet those as well. Don Kim says the Ritz hotels are nice, but I don't think they honor any status or perks if booked with a free night award. Is that true? I'm not sure about that specifically, although I know that Ritz-Carlton has their own thing where they typically don't honor any of the statuses no matter what. I haven't stayed in a lot of Ritz-Carltons recently, so I have to kind of go there and just experience it first. But I've heard that they don't really honor status as much as their own personal, like, if you're staying with Ritz-Carlton and you have like a nice room, they'll obviously give you better treatment. But I think for the most part, they have their own system that they have, and it's regardless of whether you booked with a free lunch certificate, points, or with cash. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so I think we have one other question here, which is cool. Let's cover this one. Is Ivan, what is your next card? Well, stay tuned because that video is going to come out real soon. And then Kicks Through Mel says, what do you think is a good first business credit card? I'm always a big fan of either the Ink series or the Blue Business Plus or Blue Business Cash. Those are two easy cards to get. I would say the Blue Business cards are by Amex are easier to get just in general to start. The Ink cards are a little bit more difficult, but if you call Recon, sometimes they'll let you through if it's a new business. But those are the two I'd recommend for sure. Okay, so I want to go back to our presentation here. I think there's one other question I want to cover, which is about the Citi Strata cards. And so Ian, who is here in the chat, says, now that we have the Strata, when do you think we will see the Strata Elite? And so I'm going to answer that question at the very end, but I want to go first to this new Strata card that we have had come up recently, because that is an interesting card to talk about too. Now, we talked about it a little bit as well. So let's go ahead and go to this Strata Premier card. So first of all, it's basically the same card as a regular Premier card, but they just changed the design and they added some new things to it, which are kind of minor, right? They added the travel benefits and they added EV charging as a multiplier. But what also is nice about this is they also increased the welcome offer to earn 75,000 bonus points after spending $4,000 in the first 3 months, which is elevated and still a very good offer. And so I think if you were on the fence of thinking of getting the card, now may be a good time to do so if you don't have it already. So definitely something very, very cool. As we all know, we have this slide from before. It is the same card as before with tax points back on hotels, car rentals, and attractions on cititravel.com, 3x points back on air travel and other hotels, 3x points back on restaurants, 3x points back at supermarkets, and as well as gas and EV charging stations, as well as all other purchases for 1x points too. There is a benefit that's still here on this card, which is the $100 annual hotel benefit, which I understand is getting easier to redeem for, but it used to be pretty hard to redeem for, is what I've heard. And basically what this is, once per calendar year, you can enjoy $100 off of a single hotel stay of $500 or more, excluding taxes or fees when you book it through cititravel.com. And the benefit is applied instantly at the time of booking. And so that's would be great to use because that would negate the annual fee of $95 and actually pay you $5, just like we talked about with the Capital One Venture X card. When you talk about things like redeeming credits for the portal. So that's super cool. Like you mentioned before, they also had added some travel protection. There is car rental insurance, although it's secondary, so it's pretty much not useful. But they do have trip cancellation and interruption insurance of 5,000 per covered trip or 10,000 per account every 12 months. There's trip delay insurance when you're delayed for 6 hours or more from your flight, giving you $500 per covered trip on up to 2 claims, as well as $500 per covered trip on up to 2 claims per 12-month period, as well as a lost or damaged luggage insurance benefit with $3,000 per covered trip on up to 2 claims per 12-month period. And of course, it's kind of reduced for New York residents at $2,000. And so there is that's the card itself. So what are my thoughts of this card? So it's basically the same card as before. It's got travel benefits, so I guess it's good because they kind of added stuff to it. But it's just a it's one of those cards that I think that if you want a single card for groceries and restaurants for a reasonable annual fee, I think this is a great card for that. And also, if you couple it with its other cards like the Citi Custom Cash, the Citi Double Cash, that can be really helpful. And then we have to think about also that Citi Strata Elite card that may be coming in the future. So we'll kind of look at that too. But we'll have to kind of see how that goes. One of the things with this card that I always kind of comment on is that, the Wells Fargo autograph card is basically this card, except it doesn't have groceries. Um, that is fine. You can also get the Capital One Saver one and just kind of have 2 cards for the same thing for no annual fee. Wells Fargo Autograph does have transfer partners too. They're not as good as Citi transfer partners, but it's something that you can definitely consider if you're looking to kind of save on the annual fee. There's also cards like the Amex Green card for MR points, and of course, this card competes with the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, which I think this card is better just as a card in general. But the Sapphire Preferred card does have better transfer partners and just has a better ecosystem in general. But Citi is getting there. I think Citi, once they release the Strata Elite, it's going to be really interesting to see what their value proposition is going to be over Chase. That's going to be super awesome. So I do want to talk about the Prestige card because that's what the Strata Elite card will likely is going to look like. And so this is what it looked like before it got closed off to new applicants. So basically, it's $495 annual fee. That's not going to stay there. It's probably going to be higher if they release the Citi Strata Elite card. Again, 10x points back on hotels, car rentals, and attractions on citytravel.com, which is the same as the Premier card. But it does get higher multipliers in restaurants, airlines, and travel agencies, as well as 3x points back on hotels and cruise lines, and 1x points back on all other purchases. So you can see it's more of a gear towards travel, with travel and restaurants being those main categories. Although for Citi, travel is like, quote, travel, because it's always going to miss some stuff. It's weird because they miss out on rental cars on the 3x category, but they have cruise lines and there's no transit. And so it's fine. It's not why you got this card. It's mostly for the benefits on the card, which you had those 2 fourth night free awards on the Citi Travel portal, as well as a $250 travel credit, a TSA global entry credit, a Priority Pass membership, and cell phone protection. So these benefits are really good on these cards. And I think a lot of people really like the 2 fourth night free awards on the Prestige card. Just because you can get a lot of value out of that in addition to the travel credit. And so those are the kind of benefits I would think that would be on the Citi Strata Elite card that's new. So we'll have to see what they do. Hopefully they have something very similar to those fourth night free awards. I'd like to see something like that because one of the issues with Marriott and Hilton is that they only give you the 5th night free. And, of course you want to stay on vacation a long time, but sometimes staying 5 nights is not in the cards. And so you have to stay maybe 4 nights. And so at that point, what do you do then? Do you like redeem your points for a lower value or do you try to buy with cash instead? Like, what do you do? And so that's why I like, this type of benefit or IHG, for example, that has that 4th night free. So we'll see what that happens. Okay. Dugras is here. Dugras says, last I knew, Prestige has the best version of the Party Pass. Thank you for Dugras. I didn't know what the specifics of that was, but I would imagine if they haven't nerfed it since they have put it out, then they would definitely probably have the best version of the Priority Pass. Also, I want to say Jake is here. Good to see you, Jake, as well as my boy Sledge from the Sledging team. Thank you so much for coming in to the live stream today. Cesar Zorel says, can't wait to see what happens to the Strata Elite. I like the Citi ecosystems. And I think that is kind of what we're all thinking of too. Having more competition is always going to be better for everybody involved. So we'll kind of see what that looks like. So let's take a look here. The Citi Strata Elite and when it's going to come out. So I did a little research and I took a look at some of the more recent cards that came out. The Citi Double Cash came out in August 29th of 2014. The Citi Custom Cash came out on June 10th, 2021. And the Citi Strata Premier card came out, as we all know, on May 12th, 2024. And it's really interesting because when I was researching, I remember the days that these cards came out, like just in my general life. I was like, oh, wow, there's a 2X card now. Or, oh, wow, there's a 5%, cashback card now. So I was old enough to remember all these cards coming out, especially, the Star Premier, clearly. So if you take a look at the difference between the dates of each of these release dates, it was 2,477 days between the double cash and the custom cash. So that's about 6 years and 9 months, as well as about 1,067 days between the custom cash and the Star Premier. So just a little under 3 years. So I'm not a big math nerd or anything, but you can make a exponential regression analysis with just these 3 data points, which is not great, but it's still enough to make a regression. So the question then becomes, if you're reducing your days by 43% with each card release, it's about 43% between these two numbers. So what's 43% of 1,067? And it turns out that number is going to be 460 days. And so based on this very rudimentary exponential regression analysis, I predict that the Citi Strata Elite card will come out on August 15th, 2025, which is 460 days after the release of the Strata Premier. I don't know if that's true or not. It's just a speculation, but based on my very, very rudimentary analysis, that's what I think the date's going to be. And so we will see if we get the Strata Elite card in the summer of 2025. Okay, and that is the end of our slide deck. So I think we're just about towards the end of the live stream here. I think we got about 10, 15 minutes left. So I appreciate all you guys for being here. First of all, make sure that we can, don't forget the like button, hit the like button if you're getting value. Hopefully that, all these questions and all these analyses we did today were very helpful to you, help you get you some ideas of your own credit card setup. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here as well. We still have some more questions to cover too, but I just wanted to make sure that, you guys have a good time. And if there's anything I can do to help make these live streams better for you, just let me know. I want to make sure that we all have a good time here on this Saturday morning. Okay, so let's go back to some of the questions here. Okay, slide up here. Start with here. You'll start there and go back. Okay. Adrian Vinciguerra asked, is it worth getting the Amex Brilliant to get platinum status and then getting a Ritz card for the F&A benefits? Currently a Chase Boundless holder with lots of bonded points. I would say yes. I think it is worth getting platinum status with the Brilliant, and I would get the Brilliant before the Ritz-Carlton card because you want to make sure you secure that welcome offer first. So make sure to get the Brilliant first, and then when you get that welcome offer, then you can product change to the Ritz-Carlton. Now you will have at least 2 85K free certificates coming every single year, and then you can also add in the business card if you want, or add another Boundless card if you want in the future, if you want to get those 35K free net awards as well. Aishwarya Ramesh, sorry if I butchered your name. How can someone build the credit card portfolio from scratch? Well, you just start with one. I think if you're early on and have no credit, you start with secured cards. Maybe go with a student card if you're a student. And if you're really lucky, you can go for like an unsecured card. Discover is a good option, as well as Chase, Bank of America, and Capital One, which I believe all have student/secured cards. So I would just start with one, and just once you get one, just kind of use that to get used to credit cards. And then after that, you can start building out your own setup. But it always starts with one. Just like everything in life, all you got to do is just get started. Kia says, Stan, what's your Grail card? Luke just did a video about the JP Morgan Reserve card. Well, it's a good question. I'm a simple guy. I don't need big benefits, big things. I just want a card that gets me good value on my everyday spending. That's kind of all I want from credit cards. Everything else after that is just a bonus, right? So all the free night certificates, all the hotel points, all the airline points, airline status, it's just bonus on top of what I'm already doing. And so I would focus on the best earner card for me for everyday spending in one card. And that card is the US Bank Outstanding Reserve card. Yeah, I have my Holy Grail card. It's not like the Centurion card or the JP Morgan, because they're hard to get, but what do they do for me? Not much, because that's not my goal. My goal is to get simple value back on cash back or any kind of value that's easy and simple. I don't want to think about it. That's really what I want out of credit cards at this point. Now, not to say that I don't mind as a hobby going out and getting other hotel cards, airline cards, transferable point currency cards to kind of make my life more luxurious, more nice. But at the end of the day, I want to save money. And so do the rest of you. You want to save money. And so if you can find a card that helps you save money, whether it be redeeming for flights, for hotels, or for cash back, you're winning. Just don't keep any balances on your credit cards or any kind of interest payments to the credit card companies because then you lose. Even just one payment, you lose. So just make sure you have good financial habits and make sure that you use credit cards the way they're supposed to, which is you pay them off in full on time every single time. And so hopefully that answered your question. I know it's not like a special card, but that is kind of what I think about cards I'm looking for. Okay, so Kevin Wynn says I travel internationally every few years. I mostly travel domestically in the USA. Which credit card do you think I should get? I think the easy cop out answer is a Chase Sapphire Reserve because that is pretty much the easiest card to get for domestic travel and to use, for example. So I think that's a really good thing, to do. So I would recommend that card. I think anything Chase is good. I think Citi is going to have some good cards in the future too. So look at them for a little bit. If you do international every few years, you can get some Amex card, knowing that you'll probably have to bank some points for a little while. We do have some super chats, Mr. Sun Win. Thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate all of the support from you guys. US Bank Alpha Reserve, gang, gang, gang. Yes, that's right. This is the card to get. I love it. I can't say enough good things about it. I hope it never gets changed. I think it's the card that I can use for almost all of my purchases, and that is just so powerful and so freeing because I can focus my time on other things. For example, making quality YouTube videos for the rest of you guys, and I love doing that. And so, trying to like balance time, with everyone's busy life, having that extra time is so important. My boy Nikosi also hit me with a super chat. We're $5. Thank you so much, sir. Hey Stan, what one or two systems do you see potentially dethroning the King and Prince Amex Chase transfer partners considered? Sorry, I'm late. No problem. Just go ahead and just check the rest of it when we finish this live stream, and that'll be no problem. What I would say is there are two that are very obvious that are coming for Chase and Amex, and that is Wells Fargo and Citi. There's also Capital One, obviously, although I think Capital One's market is a little bit different than what Chase is going for and Amex, because if Capital One wanted to target kind of I would call them not the super users, the people with higher credit scores. I'm just blanking on the word, but super prime. There it is. It's the super prime users. They would kind of relax on their credit inquiry system, and they would make their cards more accessible to people with more credit cards, which they don't do. But Wells Fargo and Citi, they do allow that, although their systems are not as predictable as Chase or Amex. But I think they're targeting kind of more the audience that Chase and Amex are targeting. That's Wells Fargo and Citi. And so they're building. They're not there yet because they are just putting out newer cards that are now mid-tier. What will be the game changer is seeing their luxury or elite tier credit cards and how they compare to likes of the Amex Platinum and the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and see how that works out. And that's good because if they do that, hopefully the Chase will be like, we got to change the Chase Sapphire Reserve because that card has been not changed for such a long time. If we have competition in the area of luxury travel credit cards, then I think we'll see a lot more changes to the Chase Sapphire Reserve in particular. So thanks again, Nikosi, for that super chat. Really appreciate that. Okay. Where was I in the chat? Okay, I'm going down here. Is the American Airlines Executive Elite card good? I think good is going to always be in quotation marks because it's going to be good for the right person. I believe the one you're talking about is the one that gives you Admiral Club access. And so, like the United Club card, if you can go to clubs a lot, I think it's worth it. If you can't, maybe it's not. Maybe it's worth getting like the executive like platinum card or something that's a little bit cheaper. I think you'd only go for a card like that if you're like an American Airlines super fan and you wanted to go to lounges all the time. Right. So we have here. So David says, I have the rich card, go for the brilliant for the auto platinum. Think it's what, yep, that's exactly what I said from before. So I appreciate that comment because that's exactly what I said. Monty is here. Thank you, Monty, for showing up today. Hey, Stan, as a math nerd, I approve this approach, but yeah, more data points would be good. He's referring to my Strata Elite release date prediction. You try the best you can, but you only have so many data points, so you got to use what you got. The Pan is here. Hello, the Pan. How you doing? Good to see you again. Stan, concerning Marriott cards and the 2-year rule between banks, what happens if year zero chase, year one chase? Do you have to wait to year three for Amex? And the answer is it depends. So the official rule is 24-month between the last welcome offer. So really, if you didn't get the welcome offer on a chase card, that wouldn't really exist anymore, would it? That would be fine. You have to wait 2 months. Now, I would never recommend not getting a welcome offer for this purpose, but there may be a situation where it may be something to think about. And so, if for your question, if you have a year one chase card that you got a welcome offer on, then yes, you'd have to wait for year three for Amex. But if you didn't, then it may be more open to interpretation. Fimo says Stan is Nostradamus. What is Nostradamus? I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna have to figure that out. Oh, I'm a physicist. I don't know. I tried to Google it real fast, didn't really work out. Someone explain me what that is. Um, Ian Mastrell says they have some verbiage on the Citi Strata website right now about the Prestige, so I agree. They're bringing it back as a rebrand as the Elite. Thanks for asking my question. Yeah, no problem. I think that if we all know Citi, anyone who holds a Prestige will get an auto transfer to a Strata Elite. So it'll be one of those things again. So just have that in the prediction box there that they'll just auto transfer. And they'll probably do it on like Independence Day or some holiday like they did this time around. John R says 143 watching, 143 likes. Thank you so much, John, for reminding everyone to hit that like button. I really appreciate you all being here. Again, it's a Saturday afternoon. We're kind of coming up to the end here, but definitely want to get some more questions if I can. Again, I do these live streams once a month, and you can have access to me directly, so we can just answer questions and just chat about our favorite topic, which is credit cards. Let's see. I don't know what this says, but the Ritz card is a no-brainer. So Ben Halberg says the Ritz card is a no-brainer if you can make use of the airline credit. Sad to see private restaurants no longer work, which is sad for me too, because that's what I was going to use for it. Good rental car insurance, cheaper Ritz like Abu Dhabi Club upgrade. Yeah, I mean, they have those great Ritz Carlton Club upgrades too. Having to note that you do have to spend money. You have to buy the actual Ritz Carlton reservation with cash to use the upgrade certificate. But other than that, it's something that I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. Okay. Justin Manning asked, I have been wanting to get the US bar, but I'm sitting at 1.6 right now. Should I wait until I'm 112? Seems it's getting a bit easier to get approved for some data points I've been reading on Reddit. Yes, and I actually have noticed that too. A lot of us talk about the 06, 012 new accounts, hard inquiry situation, but there are a lot of data points where people just apply for it, they just get it. So I think it may be US Bank is relaxing their application rules. I think it's still worthwhile to just have a relationship with them at the very least. That costs you really nothing, to be honest with you. But if you want to go for it, go for it. 1.6 is still very solid. And so I would say, if anything, to make it better, have like a checking account or a CD or something before you apply, just because you are at that 1.6 level. But other than that, I think if you get it, it is 100% worth it. So, what's that phrase? Fortune favors the brave. You'll know how that went. Okay. T Enthusiast says, thoughts on getting the IHG Marriott or Hyatt Chase card to round out 524 in about a year. I've stayed in and liked each chain, mainly looking to use for vacations. So I think out of those cards, it depends on what you're looking for. I would say that the IHG card is pretty nice if you're focused on IHG properties, because it unlocks a lot of things like a free night certificate every anniversary year, as well as that fourth night free if you redeem for 3 nights. So that's really helpful. I would say that Bond by Boundless is a helpful card because you can get a welcome offer of 5 nights free at a limited time period. So that's also helpful too. The Hyatt Chase card, it's okay. I know that Uncle Luke talks about the Ink Preferred or any other card is better than that, and I tend to agree with him. Again, I'm not a Hyatt fanboy, so there's also that part of it too. But I would just say you got to choose what card you want based on the hotel you stay at. And so if you think that there'll be a bunch of IHGs or Hyatts in the areas you want to go for vacation, then do that. If you want to make sure you have hotels no matter where you go, Marriott's the way to go for sure. All right. John Chitty says, "Said I feel trapped by Chase 524. I want other cards, but I'm scared to never get another Chase card. Any advice?" So it sounds like you're at or above Chase 524. Um, I don't think it should preclude you from getting chase cards. I think it's just a matter of planning ahead and planning a strategy out. And so if you want to send me a message, maybe we can talk about that offline. But it's something that you just have to work around. There are ways to kind of get around Chase 524 in terms of like with business cards, you can have new cards without adding to your 524 status. Sometimes you can get away with getting it over. Like some creators have shown that, but it's not something that I think is to preclude from getting cards, because getting cards is kind of the way we kind of grow and get better strategies and better rewards. MR says, Nostradamus for famous for predicting the future long. Thank you so much. Okay, I was trying to look that up, and thank you for clarifying that. Yes, I predict the future. I hope it's sooner than that, but we'll see if it comes out. The Shard Elite card comes out at that point. Okay. Looks like everyone is pretty much good with questions. Again, I think it looks like Keith says everyone head over to Anthony's Ventures Live after Sin Live is over, which is right now because it's noon. I'm hungry. It's time to start my Saturday, as well as for you guys to go and see Anthony Ventures Live. Again, thank you so much for coming to my live stream today. I will put this up in the bottom just before we get going here. Don't forget the like button if you got value from this live stream today. It really does help out the channel, help out the live stream. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys, and I had a lot of really awesome questions for this month's live stream, and I hope to get more and even better questions next time. Again, I love those credit card strategy questions, and so if you have any of those, I'm happy to go over those with you, in these live streams, and as well as the live Q&A as well. So again, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Saturday. Head on over to Anthony Ventures live stream, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Take care, guys.